Welcome, Spreaker. How are you? Should we start over? We should. Okay. Tom North, who is our guest this evening, is none other than the subject, one of the subjects of a movie, of a film that debuted in 1968. In 1968, the stars of the film that I'm speaking of were Lucille Ball and Fonda. Henry Fonda? Is it Henry Fonda? I'm not familiar with the name. Anyway, Mr. Midnight Movie, do you know what the man's
Henry Fonda. It was Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda.
Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda.
And I forget the name of who played the oldest son, who ended up joining the Marine Corps at the end of the film. Not a big fan of the film. I wasn't. My mother was someone who really enjoyed that movie. I was not. I was not a fan, save of that movie.
What?
By the dozen.
Well, it's actually called Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Oh, Yours, Mine, and Ours. I'm sorry. Yeah, Yours, Mine, and Ours. And they remade that with Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo. Not big fans of either one of them.
Now you tend to think that this is something quasi-related to Cheaper by the Dozen. Why do you think that?
Well, they're both big family films.
Okay.
And, they're both, to a degree, paying homage to the big family films of the past. The one that comes to mind, not Cheaper by the Dozen, but I think I Remember Father, and also the original Cheaper by the Dozen, about a very large family.
I think that the large family had a place in history, and I think that coming from large families, people don't get enough hugs. Would you like? I'll say that. How about that? I mean, I think it's. You know what I mean?
Large families are something more out of the rural past,
Exactly.
And they started to have less of them, and now it's become far too expensive to have large families nowadays. Back in the day, you could be semi-wealthy, and have 9, 10, 12 children.
My
grandfather mother came from a family of 11. Yeah,
my grandfather was one of 12. I want to see if area code 831 is our guest this evening. I'm hoping that it is. 831, you are on the air with Debbie and Mr. Midnight Movie.
Hi, Debbie. This is Tom North.
Oh, hi. It's so nice to meet you, non-face-to-face. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And how about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. I'm so glad that you came this evening to our show, and we're broadcasting off of multiple networks here, so you're going to get heard by a lot of people. Mr. Midnight Movie is a friend of mine and calls in relatively often to my show. He has his own show here on Blog Talk Radio and also on Spreaker. Now, I've heard you on Blog Talk Radio before. Is that right?
I believe it was on the Bill Murray show.
Yes, I met Bill Murray one time, not in person, but on Blog Talk Radio. He is an advocate for adult children of child abuse, isn't he? I'm not an advocate, but he's a warrior.
His show is End Child Abuse Now.
End Child Abuse Now, and that would be End Child Abuse in. I guess I can't think of. Is there a short way?
He's in L.A.
Oh, okay. I remember one time, about 2 years ago, I went on the Bill Murray show, and I just wanted to know if he was the Bill Murray that everybody knew.
Yeah, wrong Bill Murray.
Yeah, but we became friends. So say hi to Mr. Midnight Movie.
Hey, North. I forgot the first name. Was it Bill North, or what was the first name again? I forgot it. I'm sorry.
Tom.
This is
Tom North. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tom, I want to ask you some serious questions about your book. First of all, thank you for being here this evening. And I come from child abuse, and I have been reading so much about you lately and learning so much about you lately, and you talk a lot about, well, I guess we should tell people what's going on. I would like for you, in your own words, because I already know what's going on, would you mind explaining to people who have not bought the book that you wrote that debuted in July of this year? It's available everywhere at Amazon.com. It's available everywhere. It is called Tom North. Now tell me the exact title of it, if you don't mind. I don't want to miss even one word.
All right, that's all right. The title is True North, The Shocking Truth About Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Okay. Now, would you explain that to my listeners, please? What is the shocking truth, if you don't mind?
All right. So let's go back to 1961, when my mother, Helen North, who had 8 children, and she was a widow. My father was a military officer, and he was killed flying experimental aircraft. So, excuse me, with 8 children, she met a man named Frank Beardsley who had 10 children, and he was a widower. They were married, and of course 10 and 8 is ridiculous, but that's what they did. And then they had 2 more shortly thereafter. Because of the unusual merger of these 2 large families, the story was carried in the newspapers around the country, and Lucille Ball saw the story in the L.A. paper, and she called my mother and my stepfather, and she said, I'd like to make a movie about the combination of these 2 big families. So she made the film. It was called Yours, Mine, and Ours, and it became the 4th highest grossing film of 1968, and Lucille Ball won a Golden Globe Award for her portrayal of Helen North Beardsley. So that's the backstory and the beginning of True North, The Shocking Truth About Yours, Mine, and Ours. Now, to get directly to your question, which is what was so shocking about the truth about Yours, Mine, and Ours. And that is that the movie, the film, Yours, Mine, and Ours, was a very cleverly written, very heartwarming film. It portrayed Frank Beardsley as a very wise but firm and loving father of these all these children. And the reality is that when Lucille Ball came to Carmel, California, where the family lived, and met my mother and my stepfather and all the children, she immediately took my mother aside and she said, you keep that man away from me. Because she picked up on his energy right away, and he was psychotic. And the reason my mother married him was to save his children from him, and because she was a good Irish Catholic martyr, she wanted to save him from himself. And so that's why she married this man. But he was dangerous, and what she ended up doing was taking her own 8 children into a very dangerous environment and losing control of it. So that's the shocking truth about Yours, Mine, and Ours. The contrast between the film and the reality of the family situation was so great that it warranted writing a book about. So I wrote that book.
And I don't blame you. I actually do not blame you. I have so many questions regarding reality versus the facade. I wonder sometimes if that is the family that your mother wanted the public to see them as. And therefore, because I understand from my research that you were told, you meaning the children, were told often to not debunk the film to the public. Is that correct?
Not only was it correct, but the expectation was that we would support the fantasy of the film, and if we were to tell anyone what really went on in the family, we were in big trouble. In fact, there's an anecdote that I share in one of the early chapters of the book where Frank Beardsley went after one of my sisters and he was going to beat her. And I stepped in his way so that she could escape. And she got out the door, and he started picking on me instead. When I went outside to find her, because she was pretty upset, we went up to the local Catholic church to get help, because we figured somebody had to help us. And so we went to talk to the priest, and after explaining to the priest that we were in big trouble in this household, the priest looked down at me and he said, "Tommy," he said, "I want you to go home and ask for your father's forgiveness."
Oh, wow.
And excuse me, and he said, and then I want to see you on Saturday morning, young man, in the confessional. Confess the sin of calumny. Now, the sin of calumny is saying something bad about a person who is in a position of authority. And they have a special word for it. It's called calumny, and it's a sin in the Catholic Church.
Wow.
So we knew at that point that there was no one who was going to help us. And the next day, when I came home from school, my mother called me aside with a very ominous tone in her voice, and she said, "Tommy, I have never been so embarrassed as when Father Dudnay called me this morning and told me of your visit last night." She said, "Young man, if you ever tell anyone what goes on in this household, it will be the last thing you ever do.
Wow.
Now get out of my sight." So that was
Wow.
my mother.
I'm shocked. Now, your mother is portrayed as a hippie, a lover of peace and harmony, and is that what she
Debbie,
was?
that's wrong. That's the wrong film. You're mixing the remake, which was Rene Russo,
Right.
with
that-
Lucille Ball.
Okay, so that was completely beyond the reality. The second one was even worse, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Wow.
Yeah, the second one with Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo, which was made in 2005, they took the name and the idea of having lots of children and applied it to a completely different script. It really didn't reflect any of the family dynamics at all.
That's amazing.
Of the original family.
Was anything? Was your mother really given strong drinks one night at the table? I mean, was any of the movie? Because I know a lot of the people that are listening right now have seen that movie, the 1968 version, starring Lucille Ball. And why do I draw a blank on his name? I don't know what it is. Henry Fonda. I know they've seen it. Many of them have seen it, and if not, I'm sure after this they'll watch it. Was there any of it that was true at all?
Well, the logistics of raising a family with 20 children in it are fairly easy to portray, and in fact, that creates some of the comic appeal of a film like Yours, Mine, and Ours when we consider the sheer magnitude of parenting and providing food and shelter and clothing for that many children. So you can imagine many people pushing grocery carts down the aisles of the grocery store, filling it with so much food because there's so many mouths to feed. So that is a much more visual aspect of the film, and that part would be accurate. But beyond the logistics of the family dynamics, the film did not portray the reality of the family dynamic at all.
Was any of it true that at one point the children would get together and try to break the parents up? Was any of that true? Any allegations of that?
Oh, no, that wasn't true.
Okay.
The children, you have to keep in mind that that Henry Fonda was his portrayal of Frank Beardsley was as a warm, loving, very wise, and caring human being. The real Frank Beardsley was, as my younger sister captured it in very few words, he was an ultra-violent, alcoholic, misogynistic pedophile.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Midnight Movie might agree with me. Do you think any of this came from being in the Marine Corps? Now, did he do a stint in the Marines?
He was a Navy officer.
Okay.
And he was the personnel officer at the Navy Postgraduate School in Monterey, California.
Okay.
And I go at length in the book, in the book True North. I talk quite a bit about why and how he became who he was. And
explain to us, did it have anything to do with the military? And I'm not excusing his behavior, trust me when I say that. But I know that a lot of people that come out of the military, especially lifetime military people, they tend to run they never get out of that thought process. They're always running everything like they're when I sat at the table at night, we weren't allowed to speak at the table. We weren't allowed to speak.
Right.
Can you imagine being raised and not allowed to speak at the table? Right. And things along those lines. My father was a lifetime Marine. And
right.
Do you think?
So there's a common thread there.
Exactly.
We were not allowed to speak at the table, and he did run his household like a military combat unit. Ironically, during World War II, he was a clerk on a ship. He never saw combat, but when he was a child, he ran sort of in the mean streets of San Francisco and was a tough kid. And then went in and was a boxer in the Navy and was actually a contender for the welterweight championship of the Pacific Fleet. Mm-hmm. So he brought that violent aspect of his personality into the household.
Tom, it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if he didn't view her children as just other men, just another man's seed, another man's child. I mean, that perhaps, because I know my father had trouble getting along with men. I mean, it seemed to me he hated all men to me, but that was just I'm probably exaggerating, but did you ever imagine something like, because I totally believe everything that you've said in this book. I mean, I have no doubt. I understand also, I know I asked too many questions at once. I understand that the Beardsley children have had trouble with this book. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. They have. They want nothing to do with the book, and they're in complete denial about my portrayal of the family circumstances. And they have issued a public statement that they do not support True North, The Shocking Truth of Yours, Mine, and Ours, or any of the comments that Tom North has made to the media.
Wow.
And that's what they will say.
Wow. Mr. Midnight Movie, did you have any questions?
What was it like seeing the film, knowing, I assume that you saw the film, and what was your reaction, and what was it like seeing, Henry Fonda being that wise, decent person, knowing that wasn't the true portrayal? What kind of went through your mind and head when you were observing this?
Yeah. So that's a very insightful question, because it was absolutely crazy-making. In fact, I cite in the book at one point, I was walking towards the local community Little League park, and a little girl came up to me and she said, "Oh, it must be wonderful being part of such a big, loving family, and all the attention you get from the movie and all the money you get, and it must be just really wonderful. You must be so happy." And all I could do was stare at her and think, yeah, right, sure. And then I walked away because there was nothing I could say. That was the public perception in the minds of the community, and actually in the public at large, was that what was portrayed in the film was the life that we were living. And so it was extremely conflicting for all of us.
Because, a lot of times families will put on a front, and what they do in public and what they do in private is something quite different. And having a public persona that is a complete lie, and knowing that a man, what you describe in the book is a man that was, what you described so far is a man who was a monster and hell to live with.
And that's exactly what he was. He was dangerous. In fact, when he would come home from work, the children would be on alert, and we would say to each other, "He's home, run," because we never knew who his next victim would be. It was not uncommon for me to come around a corner and run into him in the hallway, and then he would just reach out with his hand and knock me across the room. And when I got up and I would say, "What was that for?" he would say, "Just for drill." So that was the kind of, violent person that he was.
Were his children, I mean, I know you're all considered somewhat his children, because I know there was was there really an adoption between?
There was an adoption,
okay.
And all of the North children were adopted and became Beardsley.
Okay, you maintain the name North, correct?
That is correct. All of the North children have returned to their original surname.
Well, good for you. I want to ask you, were his children equally in fear of this man as you guys were? Or could you sense that? Could you sense it even if they did not let it be known or whatever?
No, everyone was in fear of him, and so everyone kind of watched out for everyone else. And, if he was in a particularly bad mood, then everybody would say, go somewhere, get away, whatever you have to do, just don't be around, because he's in one of those moods.
You don't know much about him.
He was an equal opportunity abuser. He did not pick on one group as opposed to another.
Did you know much about his original wife and how she was as a mother to his biological children?
Good question, Mr. Midnight Movie.
Could you repeat that question for me?
The statement was: Did you know much about his first wife and how what kind of mother she was to her children before she passed away?
It was shared with me by one of her children that she was not a piece of cake either, and that she was a very difficult person, prone to anger, and that when Helen North, my mother, came into the household, she was a breath of fresh air, and they really, the Beardsley children, looked upon her as their savior. So it's quite an ironic contrast, because the North children, who had known a relatively stable, loving environment during their early years prior to the death of Richard North, my dad, were thrown into an environment where it was chaos. And yet, when my mother, Helen North, went into that Beardsley household environment, she brought a degree of relief to the Beardsley children that they had not known. And so the contrast between the two sets of experiences was enormous.
Is it true?
Did either one, I was going to say, did either one of the male children ever go to blows with the father?
Well, we all took our turns doing that. But again, he was a trained boxer, so it was very hard to take him on and know anything that you're going to get beat up, because he was a skilled fighter.
Now, did this all start off the bat? I mean, the first night you were there, or I understand that you guys moved into his house. Is that correct?
That's correct,
okay.
Debbie. We did move into the Beardsley household, and I remember very shortly after my mother married Frank Beardsley, he took many of the children to a San Francisco 49ers football game. and on the way home, the children were all asleep in the back of the car, and I was lying on the floor of the car, and I was awake listening to my mother and Mr. Beardsley talking. And he wanted to go visit an old girlfriend of his. And my mother told him, well, you know, you're married now, and so that's inappropriate, and so I don't want you to do that. And so he started screaming at her and telling her to shut up, and that, you know, she would do what he told her to do. And there I am, all of 7 years old, in the back of the car, and, you know, I wanted him to stop talking to my mother that way. And I knew at that moment that we were in big trouble.
That's unbelievable.
And that was just the beginning.
Wow. I don't see how you a lot of skeptics. I'm going to ask you a kind of a hard-hitting question that doesn't necessarily come from me, but a lot of people will say, "Why did you wait until after the death of Mr. Beardsley to publish this book? Was it already written, and were you in fear of what he might do?"
So that's a very good question, and it's a very legitimate question. And so when I wrote the book, I did not pull any punches, and I wrote it from a very raw perspective. And some of the things that I comment about Mr. Beardsley doing in the book are actually crimes against the state. And so if I published while he was alive, the state of California would be required to at least investigate, and I was told that by 3 different attorneys. And so here he was, an old man. He was 98 when I learned this. I'm sorry, 96 when I learned that if I published, the state would investigate these allegations. He was 96 years old with dementia. So why do that to a man who doesn't even understand what's going on around him?
Well, and in the state of Texas, in the state of Texas, child abuse, there's not a statute of limitations on that.
There isn't. So
yeah.
In any case, I decided to wait because he did have dementia, and dementia has a tendency to take its victims relatively quickly, and I knew I was not going to have to wait very long. And in fact, in December of 2012, he passed away. So that was when I, accelerated my efforts towards publishing. But the book was mostly completed by that time.
Do you mind if I ask, when did you start working on the book? How long ago?
Well, I started working on the book in 2008, and that sort of leads us to the questions of why did I write the book in the first place. And you know, in the latter chapters of the book, I talk about the family therapy sessions because I took the entire family through therapy, and it was really quite an interesting experience. But having done that, there were several of us who agreed never to support the fantasy of the Yours, Mine, and Ours story ever again. And so in subsequent social conversation, when people would ask me, well, how well did the movie reflect real life? If it was appropriate, I would tell them the real story. And they would say, wow, that's a book. You really have to write a book. And I dismissed that right away. But over the years, as this happened again and again, people came back to me and said, you know, based on what you shared with me about your family therapy sessions, I went and addressed issues in my own family, and I got resolution. So thank you for sharing that story with me. And I thought, and this happened like 6 or 8 times, and I thought, wow, this story is helping people. Maybe there is a broader audience, and maybe I should write that book. So in 2008, I sat down and put the pen to paper and began writing the book. It took me 2 years.
Wow. A friend of mine is asking over the iPhone. She's listening off of her smartphone out there. She asked the question, why has he changed? Now, I'm not real sure what she means by that. Do you understand maybe what she means? Why has he changed? I'm not sure what she means by that.
Why has who changed?
You, I'm supposing. I'm not sure. But
why have I changed?
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm
Minute
not
Movie.
quite sure if I understand the question.
I had a question. Did you guys ever confront your mother or your father about the things that they did in your childhood? I mean, did you ever confront them about their behavior?
Yeah, that came up during the family therapy sessions. And so...
so your father went?
Happened,
Mr. Beardsley went to the family sessions? Is that what I'm getting here?
What happened is that my younger brother called me one day, and he said, you know, I'm a mess as an adult. I can't keep a relationship going. I go through women like socks. And would you help me put together a family therapy session? Because 3 therapists have told me that my problems arose in a family context and they need to be resolved in a family context. So I said to him, Phil, consider the scope of what you're trying to do here and the scale. If we had 4 or 5 people in the family, that'd be one thing. But you're talking about getting 20 or 22 people in a room to talk about things they've been trying to forget their whole adult lives. And he said, you going to help me or not? And I said, I wouldn't miss this for the world. And so we did structure the family therapy sessions, and at the first one, we had 8 people come, and we went 10 hours on Saturday and 10 hours on Sunday, and it was just marathon catharsis. And it was so productive that we were all excited about doing it again, and we decided to go out and proselytize to our brothers and sisters and say, come on, this is great. And so we set a weekend for the following month. We did it again, and 14 people showed up. And we went 10 hours on Saturday and 10 hours on Sunday. And it was just exhausting but wonderfully cathartic at the same time. And then we decided to do it again and invite the parents. And they came.
And should I ask what happened to Mr. Beardsley during those 2 sessions, or however many there were?
I think people are just going to have to read the book.
There you go. There you go. There you go. All right.
Because it's been my experience that on average, a lot of parents who are bad parents, and you sound like you had horrible parents, a bad parent really doesn't acknowledge the pain that they inflict on their children. That's just been my experience. I could be wrong on that.
I think that's an observation and a valid one. And so there's a form of denial. In fact, I will share with you at the beginning of one of the when the parents finally did come to the sessions, Frank Beardsley, when we finally got started, the therapist always began with a prayer, and then Frank Beardsley said, "I have something to say," and she said, "Well, go ahead." And he said, "You know, I don't know what this is all about. I raised my children in a loving household the best I could as God is my judge." And he was immediately challenged from the rest of the group, and it almost erupted into fisticuffs.
Wow.
So the therapist had to take control and threaten Frank Beardsley with eviction if he didn't control his emotions. And then it went on from there. But you're absolutely right. There is a denial factor that is very hard to get over. And later on in the therapy session, it became a critical issue. And that's the part that you'll have to read in the book.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I want to know about forgetting. I want to talk just a second with people out there that want to forget things that happened to them in their childhood. I've often equated it to, have you ever been extremely, I know this is kind of strange, but if you'll give me just a second, I'll tell you, and let me finish. Have you ever been extremely sick at your stomach? And how much better you feel after you throw up? I mean, it's amazing. You just like, no, I'm serious.
Yeah. It's a good analogy, really.
And it's like when you carry around the secrets of abuse, or you don't talk about it with somebody, you won't believe how much better you feel once you get it out and you admit it. And I think a lot of people even fool themselves that they want to believe that they came from Walton Mountain. They want to believe that they came from this happy-go-lucky childhood where everything, life was just a dream. And so they fool themselves. And that's a very, very, very sad way to live. A very sad way to live.
And there's an interesting segue there, Debbie, because the National Institute of Health just published a study about 3 months ago that was conducted with 15,287 recipients of government-financed health care or government-sponsored health care. And they were looking for the connection between adult-onset disease and early childhood trauma. And it's called the ACE study. And Bill Murray was very familiar with it when I brought it up when we did his show. And you can find it on the NIH.gov website, and it's called the ACE study. But what they found is that ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience.
Uh-huh.
And what they found is that for adult respondents to this survey, those that had 3 or more ACEs, by the time they were 40 years of age or older, the experience of autoimmune disease in the body was 100%. Think about that.
Wow.
If you carry around childhood trauma and you bury it and deny it, it will manifest as physical disease, as something like, diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or one autoimmune disease or another, where the body literally turns on itself.
Wow. I'm in shock. I am in shock.
Yeah, I have diabetes.
It's a shocking statistic.
I am in shock.
But
wow.
Yeah. But anyone who wants to verify that or look more into that study, it's on the National Institute of Health website. It's called the ACE study. So, and that's really I was shocked when I first heard that data, and then I looked it up myself.
I'm surprised that your father even went to the session. A lot of parents who are bad parents or who put disadvantages with their children will absolutely refuse to even go and listen to it. It seems to be very difficult for parents, even if they're not as bad or monstrous as your father or stepfather was. So, I mean, is there any tricks that you could offer, or have you ever talked to any other people with difficult parents or parent that they want to confront? And do you have any suggestion for them when a parent is rather resistant?
Well, I think that the range of circumstances in a family is infinite. However, in our family dynamic, the children who attended the family therapy sessions got so much out of it that many of the female members, my sisters, felt that my mother would get a lot out of this. So they went to her and they said, "Look, Mom, you really got to come. This is really great stuff, and you're going to get a lot out of it if you come." So she came, and she did. She got a tremendous amount out of it, and it was just like you said, Debbie. You feel so good after you throw up. Well, she had been carrying this emotional baggage her whole adult life and had never addressed it. So when she got to the family therapy sessions, she was given an opportunity to unburden herself, and she did. And so it was enormously powerful. It was so cathartic for her. And at the end of the day, she felt so much better, and she said, tomorrow I'm going to bring Frank. He's coming, whether he likes it or not. And so he came. He was only there for a day, but he came.
And to find out how he responded to it, we're going to read the book, which again can be found at the website, of course, www.truenorth.com. And it's in both chat rooms that we're running right now on not only Blog Talk Radio, but on Spreaker.com. And, I am reminded, for some strange reason, I am reminded of a film called Mommy Dearest.
Ah, yes.
Wherein the very last line, a lot of people did not get the last line of that movie. I got it when she looks at her brother and her brother says, she always gets the last word. And Chrissy looks at her little brother and says, does she? And I believe at that moment she made up her mind that she was going to not only write a book, but was going to push it to screenplay and get
right.
And in a sense be vindicated for what she went through as a child.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if that's true with. I've written a book that is called Raised by a Marine, or What 20 Years of Basic Did to Me. And my brother, who is the only living relative I have, will not sign off on it.
Uh-huh.
He will not sign off on it. And
yeah.
It's not that there's anything, I would rather die than to write anything that's false. But I believe that he is also living under the presumption that it was Walton Mountain.
It was what?
It was like living on Walton Mountain, being raised in our house.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Which it was not. And it was very hard. Very, very hard. And
so, Debbie, what you bring up is an interesting, very, very curious response that some people have to childhood trauma, and that's what has been identified as the Stockholm Syndrome, where victims of extreme violence become supporters of the perpetrators of that violence because they don't know what else to do. And they form an emotional bond that is formed out of trauma, and they actually identify with either their captors or the victimizer. And this has happened in the Beardsley family, where the Beardsley family won't even discuss this issue. And when I have heard feedback through the grapevine, they're appalled that I could talk about their dad this way. And when he passed away, one of his daughters, whom he sexually abused, got up to the podium and said, "I miss my daddy." So, that's just weird. That's pretty strange. So that's the Stockholm Syndrome.
I am reminded of a documentary, I think it was HBO, which was Just Plain Melvin, Just Plain Evil, about a father who, I think he also had stepkids as well, who sexually molested all of his daughters and raped them and such. And throughout the film, throughout the documentary, which was basically narrated by the son of one of the daughters, a couple of the daughters said, "Yeah, when I see him, I'm going to give him a really hard time, and I'm going to tell him, everything that he did to me." And when they finally, like the scene where the daughters meet him, they give him a hug, and they do none of the confrontation, except at the funeral at the end. But they never confronted him. Only the son confronted him, but the daughters never did. And I found that kind of interesting.
There's a social stigma around the issue of child abuse and domestic violence in America, And really what it does is it drives the victims into a state of shame and guilt and isolation. And they don't know what to do with those emotions. And so they internalize them, and it suddenly becomes their own fault. They convince themselves somehow that they're at fault, and if they weren't a bad person, then this wouldn't have happened to them. And it's not logical, but the human mind is not always logical. And so we see that again and again and again, and it's unfortunate, but it happens to be what people go through. Can I shift the conversation a little bit, Debbie? Are you there?
Of course you can. Don't be ridiculous, of course.
Yeah.
Please
do.
So,
what we've been discussing so far is about the first third of the book, and the a couple of the chapters of the latter part of the book. But I want to just emphasize for your listeners that about a third of the book is kind of the descent into darkness, and then the latter 2/3 of the book are about what I did about it. Because in spite of the difficulties that many of us have as children in a family context, in spite of those difficulties, we can pick up the broken pieces of our lives and become happy people and productive people. And we can break the patterns that we experienced as children. We don't have to perpetuate domestic violence and child abuse. And we can change that. We just have to recognize what we're doing and be conscious about it. So that's what the later 2/3 of the book are about. Is really what we can do to redeem ourselves.
And how many times have we heard the old phrase, admitting you have a problem is the first step in getting the answer and finding...
Absolutely.
And that is so true, people. That is so true, admitting that you have a problem. And I want to ask you something. Do you find yourself today, as you walk around in the world and you go out for dinner or what have you, do you ever see a family dynamic somewhere and you see in the eyes of a child perhaps abuse, and you know how to recognize that look?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you right away where there's domestic violence and child abuse.
Very sad, very sad.
Because I see myself in that child.
Exactly. And maybe it's the way they react to the father. Maybe it's the way they're scared to death of him and they mind like little soldiers or... Yeah, believe me, I know the look. I know, I've been behind those eyes. I know the look. Yeah. And it's very odd. In my situation, I think the reason that my brother and I look at things two different ways is because, number one, I was never, ever abused by my father. But it was the other way around. With me, it was my mother, and with my son, with my brother, it was my father. And it was, so he doesn't, it's just a very strange situation that I came from, a very different situation. But I wanted to ask you one thing about, I was making some notes while you were talking. Now, I want you to know to begin with, I think the book could not have been written any better, because I think it's not only important to talk about what happened, but to talk about how to help people out there. And I know I am an intuitive also, as I wanted to tell you, I've done extensive research over the years on Miss Lucille Ball because I was fascinated with her. She was highly intuitive. And usually people that come from child abuse become highly intuitive because, and I was told by somebody years ago, for the first time in my life, it came to me through a friend of mine who said, Debbie, people that are highly intuitive as yourself usually come from child abuse because at a very young age you had to learn how to read your parents. And
right.
Exactly. Do you find that to be true? Are you, and I mean, we all have intuition, but some of it is tweaked beyond belief, as mine is. And do you find that true in your life? And are you intuitive to things like that?
Very much so. I have been able all of my life to read people very quickly and very completely. And so I think that, it's just an instinctual thing. And it comes from being what I call the deer at the pond. You reach down and get a little drink, and then you look up and you look around for the predators that might be lurking nearby. And so you learn to read your environment, and you read the people in it, and you find out where it's safe and where it's not. And it's something that we learn very early, and it never leaves us.
Exactly. I mean, I can walk into a party, and in 5 minutes after surveying the room, my husband calls it my cop eyes. There goes those cop eyes, he says. I duck my head down, and I'm surveying everybody in the room. In 5 minutes, I can tell you, that person has a dark spirit, that person has a dark spirit. And even my daughter will say, Mommy, is there any bad people here? And I'll be like, what? Because it's so true, though. I mean, have you ever sat and watched an animal in the forest that is the prey, not the predator, like he said, a deer? They can even go and start munching on grass without going, what was that? What was that? Who's that? Who's that? Or they're just like, and that's the way, I guess, some of us who come from child abuse become. And so you take that one step further, and you begin to be able to read through people. And people are like, and then you begin to see things in people, and a lot of people. Did you find sometimes in your adult life that some people just don't like you? I mean, and you can't really figure out why they don't like you. Maybe it's because you can see them, and they realize that or something. I know that's going one step really further into it, but I'm enthralled with the intuition part of it.
Well, the intuition is something that actually has a very positive side. It may have come from a challenging environment, but it's a skill that serves us our whole lives, and so it's a blessing. My experience in life has been that with every blessing comes a curse, and with every curse comes a blessing, and that's the two sides of the intuition. One is it came out of adversity, and the other is that it's a skill that serves us very, very well in social situations for the rest of our lives. And I look at that. I look at the adversity that I faced as a child, and I realize that many of the adult professional skills and social skills that I have were developed in that family environment, and they serve me very well today. So there's the gift that came out of the curse.
Exactly. I was, my aunt told me recently, and when I say recently, I mean within the last several years, that one time I came over, we had to go over to my grandmother's house for a big dinner that she was having. There was no way that they could back out of it. And when I walked in with my family, I was probably, she said, 2 years old, maybe 3. I was just a tiny toddler. I had this huge bandage on one side of my head. And everybody just kind of, and they kind of knew, what was going on, and they knew how what happened more or less. They never really found out the truth. But my mother made up a lie that I had burned my head on my father's reading lamp that was on the bed. And, it was very, very hush-hush. They didn't even tell. My family ended up just picking up, my extended family ended up picking up on just subtle hints, and by listening to things that my older brother would say and the way that I would respond to him. A lot of my abuse came from my older brother, physical abuse, just absolute. As she said, I was his punching bag. Horrible stuff would happen, and I feel like I'm a survivor. That's why your book touched me so much. That's why I was thinking, gosh, I hope you can come on my show and talk. Now, how long, Mr. North, did this wreck your life? At what point was there? I think what my girlfriend wanted to know after I sent her a text message is, at what point did you turn and you realized, hey, and how messed up, if you don't mind us asking, how messed up were you from this abuse? And at what point did you turn?
So it's a very, very good question, and it's very common for victims of child abuse and domestic violence to learn some form of self-medication with either pharmaceuticals or recreational drugs. And I went the recreational drug route, and between the ages of 15 and 20, actually 15 and 22, I was quite a drug user and got into some serious cocaine and hallucinogens and smoked pot just about every day. So I was doing all I could to get away from the terrible bouts of depression and self-loathing that I felt. And when I was about 22 years old, a friend of mine introduced me to transcendental meditation. And so I learned to practice TM, and that was really the turning point in my life. My life began to get better from that first day of meditation. And in fact, prior to learning to meditate, I could not or would not give a compliment. It was not in my nature to do so. And that very first day, I saw my sister my younger sister who was going out on a date, and I said, "My, don't you look pretty tonight?" And I shocked everyone in the room because I gave a compliment. And it just got better and better from that point on.
I am in shock. I'm sitting here in shock, and I just told my husband, I don't believe you just said that, because are you kidding me? Because I could not give a compliment for a long time. I could not.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why? I mean, where does that come from? I'm
Well,
enthralled.
I don't know where do you think it comes from?
I don't know. I'm in shock. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you were talking. I never could.
I think it comes from having such a poor self-image that we project that poor self-image out into the world, and we can't see anything good about anybody else because we feel so badly about ourselves. And I know that was the case with me, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was if some of your listeners might relate to that. But it was certainly my case, and it didn't stop until I started to get in touch with that aspect of myself which is divine, which is more centered around the light, the goodness in the universe. And
you talked about in an interview that I listened to one time, and it almost broke my heart, about the potential that we were denied as children to be what we could have been in life, and that we were robbed of that potential. I think that people that have never experienced or haven't people that have not come to terms with child abuse don't realize what I know. I could have been a contender. I mean, I hate to quote a movie here, but it's almost true. Do you understand? Do you ever think about that? What?
Well, yes, and I think what you're referring to is there's a particular anecdote in the book where when I was in first grade on Whidbey Island in Washington, when my dad was still alive, I had a first grade teacher who came to visit the family in Carmel after my dad had passed away and my mother married Frank Beardsley. And I was about 9 years old, maybe 8 years old, when she came to visit. And she said, "Do you remember me? I was your first grade teacher." And she was very surprised by my reserved and diffident behavior. And I said, "No, I don't remember you at all." And she said, "Well, I remember you because you were the smartest boy in my class." And I told her, "That can't be true. I'm stupid. My stepdad tells me that I'm stupid all the time, and he's probably right." And so it didn't take very long for me to develop a very, very poor self-image, and that self-image stayed with me for a long, long time.
What about the?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to wait on you. I do that sometimes. I'm just so eager to speak. Mr. Midnight Movie, are you still with us?
I'm still here. I have my mic on mute.
Oh, that's fine. He is the kind of person I have to ask him. I know you're teaming with something to say or anything. Can you go ahead, Mr. Midnight Movie, please? Anything?
Well, my thing is, there's a large forgiveness movement, and I don't know if you believe in forgiving people even if they don't apologize. For me, that doesn't make sense. I believe perhaps in letting go, but forgiveness, when there's no apology, I don't know if I believe in that. And I've been told that by people that sometimes people that wrong you, even if they don't apologize, you should forgive them, and that doesn't really resonate with me. I don't know if you have a response on that about forgiveness.
Well, it's a great question, and I do believe that it is possible to forgive when there is no apology, but it requires a very special set of circumstances. And I, earlier this year, finished 47 weeks of a program called Breakthrough for Men. And Breakthrough for Men is an organization which creates a safe environment for men to address those very issues of domestic violence and child abuse, whether they be victims or perpetrators. And what happens is that they create this environment, and they have psychologists available so that they can sort of create a scenario for you, a personalized, customized scenario, where you can talk to the perpetrator who you would perhaps like to get an apology from, which perhaps is never going to happen because that person might be dead, or unwilling to apologize. And you can create a scenario where you can talk to them and create forgiveness in the absence of an apology. But it has to do with discharging the emotional content of a memory, because really that's what we're talking about. When we've been abused, we create very toxic memories, and those toxic memories are stored in our physiology. And so until and unless we discharge the emotional content of that memory, we will carry it with us. But it is possible to eliminate the emotional content and have the memory without the emotional charge attached to it. So I've had that experience myself. I know that it's possible. Does that help?
You know what? Yeah, it's, I'll be honest with you. It still doesn't. Yeah, I guess releasing that, it's still, because to me the word forgiveness, the word give is in there, and to forgive somebody means that you can. For me anyway, my definition of the word forgiveness means that you can give again. And in Old Testament Judaism, I'm not a Jew or anything like that, but to forgive somebody, first they have to acknowledge and apologize. Secondly, they have to make amends to what they've done, and then the Torah demands that you forgive them. If those things aren't met, then forgiveness can't take place. And for me, that follows my personal morality. I guess for me, I like the word letting go.
Yes, and that's what you have to let go of, is you have to let go of the emotional content of a memory. And so now, interestingly, the Old Testament has an attachment to the Code of Hammurabi, which was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And it's the New Testament which talks about forgiveness as an aspect of your divine self, rather than a physical retribution of some kind, and that's very much an Old Testament concept. But the interesting thing about forgiveness in a more modern context is that, and I want to give you an example of that, of forgiveness in a modern context, is that when my dad died, and I was 6 years old, you know, at the age of 6, there's the brain is not fully formed, and our ability to grasp concepts like death is just not there. And so when I asked adults around me, why did my dad die, and why did he abandon me, the answer that I received from well-intentioned but poorly expressed
misinformed
ideas,
misinformed
adults was, God wanted your daddy with him. Well, okay, what's a 6-year-old going to do with that? So if God wanted my dad
He's
with
going to not
him,
like
and
God.
God wanted to take my dad from me, and I'm 6 years old, my response is, I hate God.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I did. I hated God. All of my adult life, I was so angry with God, I didn't trust anyone, and I especially did not trust my own guidance, my own spiritual guidance, because that comes from God. And so there's no way, if God's going to take my dad from me, there's no way I'm ever going to trust God again. And it was only in, as I mentioned a moment ago, in the breakthrough class where they've dealt with thousands of men just like me, and they said, you know, okay, how do you feel? And when I said, I hate God, it was the voice of a 6-year-old boy that came out of this adult mouth. And I was shocked at the emphasis and the power behind those words, I hate God. It was so cathartic, and I released it, and it was gone. And now I love God, because I was able to get rid of that childhood emotion, the emotion that was attached to that memory that was misguided, but it's the only thing that a 6-year-old could come up with.
I just
So
want to. I just grip my teeth and want to claw my face when I hear people tell people that Grandma has gone to live with Jesus. That Grandma doesn't. They might as well say, "Hi, what happened to Grandma? She doesn't love you anymore, so she packed her bags and she's gone to live with a make-believe man in the sky that's going to give us everything we want if we're good, and if not, he's going to make us all burn." I mean, I hear some of the most unbelievable things. I just want to shake them, you know, and I'm like, ugh. I mean, I've been known at funerals to turn and walk away, and they're like, Debbie, don't. And I'll just grip my teeth, do a pivot, and walk off, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just heard that, you know, and it's very hard for me to turn around and say something, because there's been times, because there were a lot of small children at the funeral of my father. And I even mentioned that when I eulogized him. I said, I'm not going to tell you people that my father has gone to live with Jesus. My father didn't go to live with Jesus. You know, and I went into this big explanation, and there were a lot of people I could see almost covering up the ears of the children. You know, but I'm a devout believer. I mean, I have a Bible show every Sunday night, and but I think that is ridiculous, and I can't blame you for doing that. But again, there we go back to admitting and throwing up that bad that's inside you. And
there you go.
So many people today wonder that, you know, let's say they're a 45-year-old man, and they look at their surroundings, and they have a quasi nice life. They have a decent job. They have 2 children that they're just not that close to. But you know, children nowadays, they think, oh well, it's no big deal. Not parents aren't, you know, it's the internet or whatever. No, it's not. You're carrying around something that you should not be carrying around. And the minute, that is why the most successful alcoholics program in the world, the first thing you do is you stand up and you say, hi, my name is whatever, and I am an alcoholic.
There you go.
Admitting this, and I know that there had to be a huge turning point in your life. And let me ask you something. The children that were on your side of the family, I want to go back to the house when you all lived together. Was there... Okay, now in my house, I remember many nights the huddling in my room. My bed was up against the wall, and I remember me with my little brother huddled against the wall, in between the wall and my bed, and a protection situation when there was some violence going on. Were there ever nights like that where the children all huddled together and thought, "I'll protect you"? Was there did you feel the need to protect one of the younger children? Were you one of the younger children? And another question I have is, was he abusive to your mom?
Okay, so both questions. We did kind of watch each other's backs and protect each other when we could. There were times, one of the things that pathological people do is they isolate their victims before they attack. And so it was not uncommon for Frank Beardsley to isolate his victims before a beating or before a sexual assault or something of that nature. The second question. What was your second question again?
Did he
attack my mom?
Uh-huh.
There is a chapter in the book which is titled "The 25-Cent Solution," and the 25-cent solution. 25 cents refers to the price of a bullet, and I came very close to killing Frank Beardsley when I was a 15-year-old. And so had he beaten my mother, or had I been a witness to him abusing my mother, I would have killed him. I never saw him abuse my mother other than verbally. He did not physically abuse her. He reserved that for everyone else.
Very sad. That's very sad. Now, what do you do nowadays? I understand that you've actually spoken at CASA of the Monterey County in California. What are you doing about adult survivors of child abuse, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I am now a national sponsor of CASA, and we are working with that organization to set up other speaking programs or speaking events around the country. And I'm not. When you say adult survivors of child abuse, are you talking about a specific organization, or are you talking about generally?
I'm talking about CASA, CASA, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yes. We have a chapter in Dallas.
Right, and so CASA is court-appointed special advocates for children.
Right. I understand, but I understand that is there an organization that you are a member of about speaking out about child abuse? How about that?
No, I'm not a member of a specific organization right now.
I want to pause for our first break, and that way the gentleman can go get a glass of water, whatever they want to do. And I want to listen to 3 minutes and 38 seconds of Mr. North speaking on, it's just sort of self-explanatory. Here is a little bit of audio from Mr. North himself, and we'll be right back after this. Oops.
I wrote the book because, as I state in the foreword of the book, there are people all over the world who feel isolated, who feel despondent from time to time or all the time, And this is a story which will help people feel that they're not alone in the world and that they have something to live for, that they actually have within them divine inspiration, and they only need to look within themselves to find that. I wrote the story now because for over 20 years I have thought about writing the book, but I thought, nah, it's not worth writing. And having shared the story with several people, actually many people over those 20 years, many of them have said, this story is so inspiring, you've got to write a book. And so, thinking about it over time, I observed 5 or 6 of those people who actually, having heard the story, went back in their own history and addressed issues that they found were important to them.
Oops. That was my bad. I'm sorry, I accidentally clicked on something on the page that was about you, and I was going to go to another site about you. That was me. I'm so sorry. Let me go back to where we were. I'm sorry, everybody.
I observed 5 or 6 of those people who actually, having heard the story, went back in their own history and addressed issues that they found were important to them in their own lives, and came back and reported to me that because of what I shared with them in the context of my story, they found resolution in their own lives with issues that were important to them. And what I learned from that is that, as Joseph Campbell says, all stories are one story. All dramas are one drama. And every one of us has variations on the theme, but we all have very similar experiences in life. And that's what binds us. That's what brings us together in our humanity. And so I wrote this story to demonstrate to people that we're not all that different. We have experiences in life which are very similar, sometimes tragic, and in many cases, very difficult experiences which create scars and wounds in our hearts. And some people tend to take those wounds, those scars, and isolate themselves unnecessarily. And we tend to think sometimes that we're all alone in the world, and we're not. We're not alone at all. In fact, there's far more in the world, in our personal experience, that is similar to the personal experiences of other people than that which differentiates us. And yet we lose sight of that. And this story is a story of survival, it's a story of hope, and it's a story of inspiration. And when people read this story, they have a variety of responses based on their own subjective interpretation of what the story means to them in their own lives. And that's why I wrote the story.
And again, it is entitled True North. Okay? True North. The shocking truth about yours, mind, and ours. And, you said so many things in there that touched me on a certain level. And one of them is that I've said many times before that one thing that changes us from an immature person to a mature person is the ability to lay down the things of our childhood. And I'm not quoting the Bible. I think there's a lot of truth in that. And what I mean is that one thing that makes a child is living in a me world. Everything is me, 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 me. And I know that that's one way I can tell in the world today a very immature person is everything is about me, 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 me. But I wonder sometimes if just a hint of that we don't carry when in a situation of abuse, we don't carry into our adulthood, and it's very, very, very tragic, and it's very traumatizing for us. And we spend so much of our adulthood, and I'm talking to everybody out there, on a stage, performing, even for ourselves, and you have to get very still and very quiet and get in touch with reality. And a lot of times writing does that. Mr. Midnight Movie talked about forgiveness a moment ago and how he didn't really understand forgiveness, and I'm moved to say what forgiveness means to me. Forgiveness has always been, in my point of view, carrying around an imaginary backpack. And in the backpack, you have stuffed away you've stuffed away things that people have done to you in the past. Some of us have very heavy backpacks. Some of us are smarter and we don't have very heavy backpacks. To me, when I forgive somebody for doing something rotten to me, and I mean rotten enough to affect me in the remainder of my life from when they did it, to me, forgiveness is the ability to take that backpack off and remove what that person did and get rid of it. And it's not so much something that is done from the perpetrator of the offense, but it's something that I do to myself. I sort of let it go. I lay it down. And I want to ask Mr. North a very hard question. Has there been or will there be ever a time that you lay that down? And was the writing of this book help for you to do that? Can you now at all not so much forgive him for the way he was, but even Jesus Christ on the cross said to the people that were crucifying him, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. Is there any chance that you could say to yourself, he did not know what he was doing, and I forgive him for his inadequacy as a father? Mr. North.
Yeah, great, wonderful expression of a great idea. And I mentioned a little while ago that I have recently completed 47 weeks of Breakthrough for Men, and in that process, that's exactly what we are encouraged and allowed to do, is to take that backpack off and to take out the burdens that we carry around with us, and to find forgiveness and find a place in our hearts where we can replace hurt and anger and hatred with love, because that's the only way that we're going to create forgiveness. And we don't really find forgiveness; we create it. It's a choice, and so I started the forgiveness process back during the family therapy sessions in 1989, and I wrote about that in the book. But there are every single event that we have experienced in our childhood is stored as a memory, and if that event is not integrated into who we are as adults, then it sticks in our awareness and in our physiology as an unresolved issue, and it has to be addressed at some point in time. And so during the breakthrough process, I went back and addressed issue after issue after issue with Frank Beardsley, and interestingly, with my mother, because I had a lot of issues with her as well, not to mention the big guy, which is God. And so I had a lot of heavy burdens in my backpack that I was able to unload. And but it's a conscious process. It's continuous, and it's like the layers of an onion. You peel one layer off, and there's another, and then you peel that off, and there's another, and we just keep going one day at a time.
Mr. Midnight Movie, are you there? He is so polite. He will not say a word. I've had him on panel shows before with 20 people on there, and until he is told, Mr. Midnight Movie, are you there? He will just so politely stay quiet. Are you there, Mr. Midnight Movie?
Yes, I am, and I thank you for acknowledging me, because I don't want to overspeak or overtalk anyone. I thought of another film, and it may not be that relatable, but it's about a stepfather as well. A movie called This Boy's Life. I don't know if you saw that or if you could relate to that film. Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio. That film had a great impact on me.
Oh, it's a lot like Mr. North's story, though. You're right. Go ahead. That's great.
Yeah, he's a stepfather. Even though it's only one son, what an abusive person can do and how they can get into your mind, kind of thing. And it kind of reminds me of what you're talking about with your father. Or your stepfather.
Well, I haven't seen the film. Interestingly, it was on either Showtime or Encore or something not that long ago, because I do remember seeing the title, but I didn't watch it, so I have not seen the film. But so I don't really have any way to contrast it.
Mr. North, yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably like what you are talking about. Now that I think about it, it's unbelievable. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, is there any? Has there ever been any talks about making your book into a film?
Well, I'm in conversation with a film producer in Los Angeles at the moment, and so he's very excited about it, and he's been in the business for about 20 years and has made major motion pictures himself. And so we came together serendipitously, and as so many of these things are, and so we're in conversation about that now. It's a little early, it's very early in the process, so I couldn't say where it's going to go, but we are pursuing that.
I'm ecstatic to have you on my show. I feel like I have a big time author here. And when are you going to go take the leap into the big ones? Are you going to go on Ellen DeGeneres or the Tonight Show or any of those and talk about? Or is Oprah still on? I don't even know. I don't even watch TV anymore. Does Oprah Winfrey still do a show? Or
well, she has her own network, OWN.
Oh, okay.
Oprah Winfrey Network, and so she still does shows, and she sponsors a variety of other shows as well. So, from your lips to God's ears and to their ears as well. So, if I have that opportunity, I would love to be on any of those shows.
Everybody go to Amazon.com, which is where I just went a moment ago, and you can find the book. Again, it's called True North. Just remember the North, and it's true. True North, the shocking truth about yours, mine, and ours. And I cannot recommend this enough because there's a little bit of everybody in this. Reading one of the reviews on that says, whether you're a fan, a friend, a pop culturist, a sociologist, or a fellow traveler, Tom North's True North, The Shocking Truth About Yours, Mine, and Ours proves a convincing and compelling read, an autobiography describing North's recovery from the abusive, incestuous, malnourished, and neglectful household of the celebrated Carmel family. The book also provides, I'm sorry, I had to click here for the rest. Sorry. The book also provides an absorbing look at baby boomer childhood in a semi-rural, hippie-riddled community in suburban California. Fans will enjoy the fleshed-out stories about life and death with Dick working in the donut shop and growing up in the Beardsley household. But be warned, most of the tales involve pain and suffering. North is direct and open in his allegations and takes full responsibility for making them. The book blatantly acknowledges that he is only telling one side of the story. There's not a single specific reference to a biological Beardsley child, not even half-siblings Joe and Helen. He assigns blame intentionally and repeatedly to overly large families and the institutions that encourage them. autocratic attitudes and the institutions that encourage them, and obsession with fame and appearances. Interesting. The last accusation may be the most difficult for some readers to handle. Disclaiming the fairy tale of yours, mine, and ours seems to have proven fundamental to the recovery of affected family members, and we've been warned for decades by films such as Network and Broadcast News about the dangers of using news and reality as entertainment. But the Turner Classic Movie Station, TCM, shows this film regularly, and hundreds of new fans flock to the internet after each screening seeking more information on this legendary family. Can the myth and the legend coexist peacefully, even productively? Perhaps. It depends on how people use the information this time. And that comes from a comment left on one of your on the sale of your book. That's exactly what I would probably write. Now, we talked a little bit about what I think is horrible about large families, and I was quoted thousands of times when people say, "You and Victor had two," and I would always joke and say, "We didn't want to be outnumbered." It's sort of a joke I use. And I think what I meant by that is so many people that have, 4 children, 6 children, 5 children or whatever, or they insist on taking these fertility drugs and having triplets and 2 and 3 sets of them. I just cannot see enough love going around because it takes so much love to love a child and so much attention. And I know there's times when we have a little one over here, and my daughter has a little one, and I'm playing a huge role in the upbringing of him. And there's times when he'll come in, and I do not feel like playing with Play-Doh. I do not feel, and I'll do it because I want him to remember me playing Play-Doh with him. And I can imagine having 15. I can't imagine having 6, and y'all had that many in the family. So I'm leading up to a question that I know could be painful, but why did your mother do this? Why? What in the world was she thinking? Was she desperate to get married again, or what was it?
I think that's the question that everyone wants to know is, what was she thinking? But she was very much a woman of her generation. She was a teenager during the World War II years, where self-sacrifice was the order of the day. And, there were tin drives and steel drives and rubber drives, and where people collected and recycled everything for the war effort. And it was a time where everybody said, well, we're going to do what we can to help, the country. So it was an atmosphere of self-sacrifice. And my mother carried that through her entire life. It was always about, what can I do for everybody else? And so when she met Mr. Beardsley and saw his 10 children living in a state of terror, and she told me that herself, she thought, the best thing I can do is save these children from this horrible man, and maybe I can even save him from himself. So it was very much something that she learned in her religion. As a Catholic, she was raised with the religious attitude of self-sacrifice and martyrdom. I went through catechism and Catholic school in the 1960s, and it was all about martyrdom and St. Andrew and St. Peter and all the saints. Well, they got to be saints because they were martyrs. And that's how you got to be a saint, because you got martyred. That's what she did. Is she wanted to sacrifice herself, and unfortunately, she didn't think much about the children that she was sacrificing at the same time.
Well, I was not raised in a Catholic family, but I do know I married into a Catholic family. And I've never understood so many aspects of the Catholic religion, and that's all I'm going to say about that. To quote Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that.
That's enough.
Exactly.
But it's really. I think the question will always be there, and I don't think there is. The only answer I have is the one I just gave you. But I'm constantly just wondering, what was she thinking? So I do want to say that we have a special offer with the book on the website where it can be purchased at truenorthbytomnorth.com.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a special offer discount where you can use coupon number 118 to get $5 off on a signed copy.
Really?
And if
oh,
you
boy. A signed copy. Is this hardback or softback?
This is a paperback,
Okay.
a signed copy.
Wow.
And if you purchase a copy of the book on the website, we will donate 10% of the proceeds of the sale to CASA.
Oh, that is wonderful, people. Go and do this. I mean, come on. If anything, buy it for somebody for Christmas. I mean, people love to get books for Christmas. I would love to get a book from everybody I know. I'm a devout reader. And a signed copy if we use 118. Now, why did you choose 118? Does January the 18th, is something like that standing out in your mind? If so, don't tell us. Don't tell us if it's something.
I think it's just a number.
There we go. It's just a number. That sounds great. Now, I'll tell you what, people. Again, the website I'm at right now is truenorthbytomnorth.com. True North. It's all one word. All lowercase. truenorthbytomnorth.com. Go there and click on Order Now. And I'll tell you something. It's just. I have enjoyed you being on my show tonight more than you'll ever know, because as I told you, I especially love the pictures on there. Go there and look at the pictures, people. Look at those pictures. They're so cute, so sweet. Now, did you meet Mrs. I have to ask you before we leave, did you meet Lucille Ball? Do you remember meeting her?
Yes, I do. I remember meeting Lucille Ball, and she was all business. She was very focused. I got the sense of a very, very intelligent, very in-control woman who was very alert. And now that earlier you said that she was a very intuitive woman, and that really connects a dot for me, because I got that sense of her at that time, and yet I couldn't put words to it, but you helped me out, so thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, I'd like to mention you have an upcoming book, am I right?
I do. I'm working on my second book, which is The Economics of Spiritual Transformation.
Now, can you tell me, just as one spiritualist to another, what are the economics? What are we going to be looking for here? Explain the economics of spiritual transformation.
It's not exactly, I think, what people would think on the surface. Basically, when we think about economics, there are two types of economics that are taught in school. One is macroeconomics, where we talk about the economics of countries or of large systems, countries or the globe, and then there's microeconomics, which is how individuals interact in an environment of commerce. So how you balance your checkbook, and how you organize your budget, and how you spend the money that you have, and how much debt you have relative to your equity or that which you own. And those are all microeconomic concepts. So if we take it one level more subtle than that, we can look at how do we not only manage our personal economic lives, but how do we manage our personal energy? Because that's the basic level of our interaction in our environment. is our personal energy. How do we express that? How do we spend it? How do we reserve it? Well, that is the most subtle, most intimate, and most powerful level of our own economic lives, is our own personal energy. And so that's the economics of spiritual transformation, is what do we do with our own personal energy.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Again, before we go, I want to thank you once again. Now, my co-host had something come up. He's a very, very busy photographer, and he had something come up at the last minute, and so I'm going to be killing him. So watch the headlines in Arizona for the death of a photographer. That will be me having him killed. No, I'm joking, of course. But I'm so thrilled that Mr. Midnight Movie picked up where he had to drop. His name is Steve, and Mr. Midnight Movie. What do I owe you now for doing this? And I didn't even know Mr. Midnight Movie was going to call in. I'm so thrilled that he did. Mr. Midnight Movie.
Well, I think maybe a lobster. I just wanted to ask one more question before he went.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Ask them all.
What kind of movie would perhaps, or if you know a film that kind of was your father's kind of character? I know that Peter Fonda's dad said, if you want to know who my dad really is, see the movie Fort Apache. Is there a movie that people could get maybe an essence of who your stepfather was, Mr. Beardsley?
Oh, gosh. I think it would have to be a combination of Raging Bull, which was with Robert De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
A combination of Raging Bull and, I'm just trying to think of a number of pathological characters that we've seen in cinema over the years. But you got me on that one. I have a hard time.
Maybe The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Fred C. Dobbs. I don't know if you saw that movie.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Mr. Midnight Movie sees classic movies. He brushes his teeth with classic movies. He was raised on classic movies.
He does.
Oh, yes.
Steve,
Raging Bull is certainly a classic
I'll let
film.
you come up with that one because I'm at a loss to think of a film.
I can answer that about my father. If y'all would like to know exactly what my father was, go see the movie Full Metal Jacket. There you go. The commanding officer, help me out, Mr. Midnight Movie.
The drill instructor.
The drill instructor. That was my father. I mean, I remember to this day my father out in the backyard practicing the silent drill with my brother with a BB gun. Just so many things. I mean, he was a Marine until the moment. Well, he was a Marine when he died. They gave him a full military burial. I mean, with the 21 gun salute and the whole thing. And now, I want to ask you one question. Clear up something from me, just personally. Did your stepfather, in fact, turn down being commandant of the Navy?
No, he did not. He was a chief warrant officer, so he was not even a commissioned officer in the Navy.
Really?
Yeah.
I have another
he would
question.
not have been offered any position of commandant. I don't know where that comes from.
That was in the. Did you ever see the movie with Rene Russo and Dennis Quaid?
Oh no, I didn't see it.
Okay,
and I heard it was kind of a bomb.
Well, in that movie, he is offered the position, the rank of naval commandant, and he turns it down because. Now he did play. From what I saw, he almost played a bad guy in part. I saw that movie many years ago, but I remember he played almost the part of a bad guy when it came to being a father. Yeah, so you may want to check some of that out. But how can I thank you for being on here today? And Mr. Midnight Movie, we have so many people on the board on Blog Talk Radio. I'm going to see if I can I'm going to let Mr. Midnight Movie, I think, hold you down for just a second while I go in the green room. Well, no, he'll have to go in the green room with me. I wanted to make sure these aren't troll calls. But let's just go ahead and take a shot. Area code 925, you're on the air with Debbie and our guests this evening, Mr. Tom North and Mr. Midnight Movie.
I didn't mean to press no button. I was listening to the show, and my daddy is like John Shaft.
Is this who I think
Bad,
it is?
bad mother, hush your mouth.
Shut your mouth.
I'm
This is
talking about Shaft,
well.
but we can dig it. Don't say no names.
That's right.
Don't say no names.
I won't say no names.
And we're going to keep it on the down low, but I didn't mean to press the button.
Did you fall over on it?
I did. I did. Maybe, I'm afraid I don't know much about John Shaft either, except that he was a very entertaining character.
Came out right around the same time as your film.
Yeah.
A few years later, 1971, John Shaft hit the screen. Just a few years.
Oh, you're crazy.
The difference is
made more money than the box office too.
Yeah, and
better
John
soundtrack.
Shaft,
Curtis Mayfield and shit.
Oh yeah.
And John Shaft.
Curtis Mayfield's a bad motherfucker too.
Shut your mouth.
Shaft.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Talking about Shaft, well, we can dig it.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mr. North. Go ahead.
I was just going to say John Shaft was cool and Frank Beardsley was not.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well,
Well,
I wanted to ask one more question in my mind. Did he come from abusive parents himself?
Oh, Frank Beardsley definitely came from abusive parents. When he was a boy, and I write about this in the book extensively, when he was a little boy, he was the youngest or I should say the second youngest of 12 children who were born to a bank teller in San Francisco and his wife, who was a domestic in the homes of wealthy San Franciscans. And while all the children were off at school, little Frankie was locked in the cellar with food and water and left there all day long.
oh no! Are you serious?
He was isolated, and that's a form of abuse. So he was abandoned in the cellar and left there, effectively in a dungeon for much of his childhood, and that really.
Man, I don't know. I think your parents be putting guilt trips on people with these sob stories about how bad they was abused.
No.
I don't know.
Area
My daddy
code,
said he used to walk miles
20
to go
miles
to
to
school for a
school.
nickel and shine shoes. I
Now,
don't know if I
area
believe all that
code-
shit.
Area code 215, you are on the air. Hang on just a second, 925. Area code 215, you're on the air with us this evening. Did you have a question for our guest?
Yeah. One question. This is Brother James calling from Philadelphia,
Hi.
and I came in kind of on the end. I heard about the 10 kids. I didn't know exactly what the topic was. So
18 children. The topic is that there was a movie made in the 60s about a family that turned out to be completely a bunch of garbage and completely wrong. It was actually the family was very abusive. And we have the 11th child out of 18 children with us. So,
okay.
yeah.
It's actually 18. I'm the 11th out of 20, but that's close.
Well, close enough. Well, I want to say thank you to you this evening. We've got about 1 minute left in our live stream, and I want to thank you. I don't want to leave you. I've had you now for 2 hours, and I've probably gone over my limit. I can't thank you enough. Again, guys, go to the website that I've been talking about, which is True North by Tom North, to not only read about Mr. North himself, there's pictures, there's all kinds of things, and please buy this book. It is, I can't wait. It's supposedly a phenomenal read, and after I was confirmed as a guest, I didn't have time to receive it from ordering it, and I cannot wait. I'm probably going to want to have you back again, but please go to, again, or just ask me. It's True North by TomNorth.com, or go to Amazon.com. You can get it. Where all can they get it? Is it available in the physical brick and mortar stores, Mr. North?
Yes, it's available wherever books are sold.
Wow, there you go. I have a feeling this is going to go far. Thank you again. And Mr. Midnight Movie, did you want to say goodbye to our guest this evening? Mr. Midnight Movie? Did I lose Mr. Midnight Movie?
Steve, are you there?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I had myself on mute. Yeah. Thanks for coming to Deb's show, and Deb, thanks for having me. And I really certainly enjoyed it was, kind of rather insightful. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was stimulating, the conversation.
And thank you for being here with me tonight. So I will be bidding you adieu, Mr. North, and thanking you again. You've got my email address. You know how to get in touch with me. Please, anytime you want to come back, please do. And again, why don't you think about looking into that movie called This Is a Boy's Life, or This Boy's Life?
This Boy's Life.
Yeah, I will watch that.
It will probably...
I will watch that, and I thank you for having me on your show, and I thank your callers, and I thank Steve for his insightful questions, and it's been a pleasure being on your show.
All right, everybody. Again, we will be staying on the Spreaker feed. We will be going into archive over here. Mr. North, thank you again for coming. Wow. Wowee. Listen to that. All right, guys. Kill it. Kill it, kill it. Oh, they mind me so well. Thank you, Mr. North, and we will hopefully talk to you again real soon. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Debbie. Good
All
night
right.
now.
Bye-bye. Now, don't touch that dial, because we are still on Spreaker.com, and let's go ahead and unmute some of these crazy people on here. What are y'all doing, you crazy people? Mr. Brown Beasley, you crazy, talking about Shaft. Shit, you're crazy.
That's my daddy. Your daddy was that sergeant. Yeah, Daddy was mean as if he was that sergeant.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he was. Well, now, you've heard my intro on Blog Talk Radio, the theme song that it goes to, haven't you?
I didn't catch the Full Metal Jacket part.
No, I have an intro on Blog Talk Radio, the new one that I have on Blog Talk Radio. I know you've heard it, and the theme song that goes behind it. I know you've heard it, haven't you?
It's not ringing a bell.
Well, then you don't listen to enough of my shows on archive, and I'm very disappointed in you. Listen, here it is.
I'm weaning myself away from this lunatic band.
Listen.
This is FRD.
Welcome
back to the Debbie Daily Show.
Yeah, I never heard that before.
Listen.
I don't recall. Okay, let me listen now.
This is Constantine Braveling, and I've never listened to the Debbie Daily Show.
Oh, John Shaft.
Listen to Debbie Daily Show.
Yes.
And you just ran out of gum.
Well, you know. Well, that was just a coincidence.
I know. I blend all the voices in with it.
This is Celtic, and you're listening to the Debbie Daily Show. You're listening to the Debbie Daily Show. You better not click off right on find you and cut your head off.
Bum, bum, bum. So if you haven't heard that,
What's up? This is the
Fat Red Drinick from the 420 Grindhouse, and you're listening to the Debbie Daily Show. Have I ever showed you the Mr. Midnight movie intro that I did? You've got to hear this. Listen, it's real short. It's only, and don't say anything, Mr. Midnight movie. It's about, a minute and 30 seconds, I think. It's this is called Segway. Here it is. Listen to Mr. Midnight movie's intro that he never used. I love it.
I believe is that the civil rights movement has been basically perverted. Do you have any response to that?
I agree. Go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yes, this is inflammatory talk. I am the host, the inflammatory but diplomatic Mr. Midnight Movie, a.k.a. the Truth Clown, Truth Santa, whatever the fuck you want to do. We're all about free speech, freedom of expression. I am the host, the inflammatory but diplomatic Mr. Midnight Movie.
I will take over, and I will do good by you.
Or what what is it? What did we name the show today, Jewish producer?
Inflammatory talk.
AKA the Truth Clown.
Next time you open your mouth,
This is Inflammatory Talk.
so deep you cannot swallow.
And comments, Mr. Not No Name tonight? Hello?
Yeah. You really want to comment? I mean, what's there to say?
You're supposed to say it's good. Area code 215, you're back on the air with us now.
There you go.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, I just want to say I thought that was a badass intro, Debbie, and I'd like to just give you the props that you deserve. Well, thank you. That's very sweet, 215.
I want to make a comment about Richard Roundtree and Shaft. I would have thought.
Oh, okay, well, hold on a second. Now you're about to hear an idiot talk.
No.
You're going to say something stupid.
No.
You're
Okay,
the biggest,
okay.
Oh, God, I got to hang up. I can't listen to idiots.
Oh, I'll do you one better. I'll
That's
put
a
you on
fucking-
hold. I'll put you on hold. There, I'll put him on hold. If he hangs up, that's his
Put him on
loss.
hold.
Go ahead.
No, I would have loved to have seen Richard Roundtree and John Wayne do a movie together. That's all I was going to say.
Really?
Yeah.
What is wrong between you and Brown Beasley? He hung up. I don't get it. Where's...
I don't know. He still has animosity about the last time the show, and
what did you do that was so tacky? You're not a tacky person. What rubbed him the wrong
Well,
way?
I think he thought I was going to attack him. Whatever.
Oh, please. You don't attack.
I didn't even have a chance to say anything before I had something, and he calls me an idiot. But that's fine.
You know, some people are just so butthurt sometimes. I mean, if anybody's been attacked, I am the poster child of being attacked. And even I wouldn't act like that. I wouldn't just hang up. Are you kidding me? I've never. Well, have I done that? No. Wait, have I?
I don't know.
No, I've never hung up. I did not hang up anytime you had beep on there, and I've never. No, I wouldn't do that. No. I'm gonna stand by that. I wouldn't do that.
But getting back, getting back to the show that we had, just earlier with Mr. Tom North, I wanted to get back to the fact that a lot of adult parents, I think it's really hard for adult parents to address their children's grievances.
You know, Mr. Midnight Movie, I was told one time that one of the biggest things that a parent could do to a child is apologize. And if you think about that, now stop for a second and think about that. You think about how many times a day we say crappy things to our friends or crappy things to our spouses or our girlfriends or our boyfriends. Think about how many times through their lives we've said crappy things to our kids. And we have said crappy things to our kids. And I have set both of mine down at one point or another, and I've said, guys, listen to me. Even though I'm your mom, I'm human, and there have been so many days in your life that I have not felt well. I've been doing, for whatever reason, and I want you to know that I am so sorry that I hurt you that day. And it takes, it really, really is a big thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Now, have you ever said "I hate you" to your children? Have you ever said to your children, "Oh, I hate you," or "I hate your guts"?
I can't imagine saying something like that.
Really? Okay. Most mothers haven't, but yeah.
Have you ever been told that? Have you ever been told "I hate you" by your parents?
Yeah. Not by my mother.
Yeah, your mother was saintly. Now, and you did you believe that? I mean,
I knew it was a short thrift thing, but it's like something you shouldn't do.
Wow.
There's certain things you shouldn't tell your children, even if you're, at the most rageful. I mean, even defending yourself against, like if your child's trying to kill you, even defending yourself against them. You shouldn't tell them. You should never hit.
What would you think about somebody as myself whose mother died having never told me that she loved me? I never heard the words, "I love you" from my mother. And I can't imagine. I guess I tell my kids every day. It's ridiculous I tell them so much.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're overcompensating for something, it may backfire. Cause, I was told that by and at the time, I really didn't appreciate it. It was like, whatever. Mom loves me. I want that hot chick down the street to tell me she loves me. I mean, to me, it was something I guess I kind of took for granted. A mother's love, kind of thing. It was
which just furthers the reason I love you, Mr. Midnight Movie, which is something that Mr. Solution cannot understand. He cannot understand it. And he even tried last weekend to tell me that my relationship for you had no merit. There was no reason for it, that I was all this better than you. And he says that I'm even furthering, I may even be the spark, the spark that keeps you. I may be an enabler, he said, and I couldn't understand it. I wish, can somebody explain that to me?
I laugh, though, but I laugh at that. I think it's funny.
Can somebody explain that to me?
I mean, his insults, they kind of, when he said I was a pig, but didn't stop going.
I even laughed at that. Did you hear me laugh at that when he said that?
Yes, I did. How could you?
I couldn't believe it. He said, "Well, he's still a pig. He hasn't stopped oinking." Oh man! Yeah. Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable, funny stuff. I'll tell you what. But and I love, I adore Mr. Solution for whatever reason there is. I just do. Nothing really changes that. And oh boy, what a mess! I'll tell you.
Well, I enjoy good people who are able to converse well, whether they like me or not. If they interest me, and I listen to people even if I disagree with them, even if I don't like them, if they produce something that's interesting to hear. So I do at times even enjoy hearing Mr. Solution, and I thoroughly enjoy hearing Tim, even though I think he's unnecessarily confusing. I still enjoy hearing him.
Ugh, he makes me nuts. He makes me.
I know.
He drives me crazy sometimes. I don't understand.
They're both very forceful individuals, by the way.
Yes, they are. Like. They are very forceful. Tim, when he called in this last week on 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago or 2 nights ago actually, I could not make heads or tails of what he was talking about. I said to myself, and I said, I believe to him, what are you talking about? What do you want? And I did not understand it. He's a caller that calls in on my Sunday night show. He missed a couple of weeks there in a row, but he did call in this past weekend and just babbling about, could you make out what he wanted or?
I mean, I think he wants to discredit the Bible. He was a Christian for years, and he isn't anymore. He's a non-believing Christian. He doesn't consider him. I guess he doesn't consider himself an atheist, and he doesn't really speak plain, which is a problem I do have with him. But he is interesting when he talks. So anyone that is interesting when they're talking, I'll listen to them.
Exactly. And he is interesting to listen to. There's no doubt about it. Now, Victor wanted me to tell you, and I never got to tell you this, he was very impressed with your discussion that you had Sunday night with Mr. Solution. It was very civil. Very civil. Yeah, well.
I kind of changed kind of a leaf around, a little bit. Still an atheist, but like I said, I'll try to start on a civil footing, and I think beforehand I was a little bit, with my show, particularly with my No White Guilt show, I was a little bit more forceful than I had to be, and I want to try to be
say it.
The more diplomatic.
Say it. No. I think I know.
What?
Hold on, everybody. This is what I think he meant to be.
Yes, I just want to say that stoic calm wins, and I'm treating my...
Guys, I had to pick back up and tell y'all where this happened one night is this was actually the second part of a show that I did. I had a show where Mr. Midnight Movie went went up against Mr. Solution. Mr. Solution was raging, and Mr. Midnight Movie remained very calm. I said, I'm going to open up a second show. I opened up the second show, and the first call that I picked up was Mr. Midnight Movie, and this was what he said the minute he called in. Now, I spliced it together, and I put some background music, but this is what he said when I answered the phone. I said, caller from Skype, you're on the air.
Yes, I just want to say that Stoic Calm wins, and I'm treating myself to some sugar-free cookies after the show. And yes, I don't want to say that I'm proud of myself, but yes, I believe that this is a lesson for everyone that deals with bullies. Remain calm and don't let it get to you. Let it roll off your back. You can win with Stoic Calm.
And very true. Truer words were never spoken, Mr. Midnight Movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think everybody wins if you're not a hothead and trying to get, before I was trying to, push the envelope. I had a chip on my shoulder, and I still do. It comes out. It's in hibernation right now, and hopefully it'll keep it in more in hibernation. But I have a bestial side to me that gets angry, and in the past has even gotten physically violent if I felt I was in the right. But I tried to keep that beast locked away. I mean, if it has to come out, like I'm defending myself physically, defending myself, or even I would say less so verbally, because I really went off on Mr. Solutions a couple of times on my show. But I want to try to kind of muzzle that dog beast inside me, so it doesn't come out as much, because it doesn't do any good.
Muzzle that dog. That's right.
Muzzle that dog for the most part. I mean, there are times when a person needs to defend themselves, but that's very few and far between.
Exactly. There are times when you need to get batshit crazy, right?
Yeah, and even when you're getting batshit crazy, you should remain calm, because the more calm you are, the more focused you're going to be in any form of confrontation. Exactly.
Now, I was bragging the other day that I got a new drop via a phone conversation that I had with somebody on this network who is the number one show, the biggest show on here, gets the most downloads. He's actually not only on iHeartRadio, but he's on terrestrial radio. He simulcasts off of terrestrial radio, and that is from the following, and I would love to play for you guys right now my new drop that I got, and take it away, new drop.
This is Lester Bartholomew Jones, and I just want you to know that I never listen to the Debbie Daly Show. That's a fact. This is Lester.
Oops, I accidentally hit twice. Did you hear it?
Yeah, that was pretty goddamn funny.
I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that, bitch. I'll tell you what, because I earned that. I feel like I earned that damn drop, and y'all can all kiss my ass. I'll tell you why, because I earned that. I was put through... I passed the test on Lester and Guy. They wore me out for days. And I stood strong, and I withstood the storm, and I even fired back a little bit, had a little bit of fun at their expense, I guess you could say, and fired back. And that goes to show you what perseverance will do in the radio world. And it shows the ability to take a joke, and the ability to withstand the pressure when it's on pretty thick. Wouldn't you say it came on pretty... Even he said on the phone conversation that we had that he said, we did come on pretty hard with you. They really did. So I fired back, and I fired back pretty good with him, I think. When I just... randomly, in what I did, this is the first take. There wasn't a take 2. There wasn't a take 3. This was the absolute first take that I did. And it's funny because when I was doing this, I didn't even know what I was going to do. I had no clue what I was going to do. And when I didn't even know my name. I did not even know my name. I simply turned on the recording button and I said, "Hi there, everybody. My name is," and I just went with the name that I call one of my dogs over here. We have a dog over here that I call Bootsy McGee. And I said, "My name is Bootsy McGee." And I just went with it. And I was trying to do a parody of two people on this network. One of them, you just have to kind of guess at who I'm doing. If you know my predicament on the network, you'll know exactly who I'm doing. And the other one is, in fact, Lester. And I'd like to play that for you now. Here is my imitation, my parody of Lester and Bootsy McGee. I'm just going to let y'all wonder who Bootsy is.
Hello, all you beautiful people out there in Spreaker land. This is Bootsy McGee here on Spreaker.com, and I'm here to talk to you about haters. You know what they say, haters gonna hate. And you know that's right, haters is just gonna hate. Now, we have some interviews here today. Our first interview is with our friend Lester the Molester. Lester, how are you today? Well, that's just really, really good. And what do you know about haters? Can you tell us about haters, Lester?
Why, yes, I can. I am Chester the Molester, and I'm here to tell you that I am only 22 years old. But I'm here to talk to you about a hater on this here Spreaker.com, and her name is Debbie Daly. She is 153 years old, and she is the driest old hag you've ever seen in your life. And she's a no-talent hack, and she's a hater. Oh, she's a drama queen, too. The loneliest old twat you ever saw in your life. And us down here in Texas, now you know I'm here on my brother-in-law, Johnny's radio station, 'cause he lets me be on here. I ain't got a wife. My wife done left me years ago 'cause I'm an old piece of shit. I'm fat, I'm old, and as a matter of fact, if you look at the picture of me on my show page here, that's the best picture I've ever had took, and I look like shit in it. So you can imagine what I look like in person. What about you, Bootsy?
Oh, no, you don't. You're not going to get me to talk bad about Debbie Daly. I actually love Debbie Daly. Because you know something? They may call me Bootsy McGee here on the network, but I'm really a boy. I'm a boy. I'm a male. And I hate haters. As a matter of fact, I hate everything. I hate you. I hate me. I hate my mother. I hate my brother. No, wait a minute. I don't have a brother or a mother. I forgot. I hate my dog. Do I have a dog? I got a cat. That's the closest thing I've ever come to pussy anyway. And I'm going to tell you what, but I've got this person that I'm going to sue. I'm going to get everything she owns. Everything she owns. And I can't wait till I'm sitting across from her and I can say, "Hey, you old mean thing, I'm going to get that quilt on your bed and I'm going to burn it. And I'm going to say, yee-haw! Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, oh witch, did you go to see Wicked? I love going to see plays and orchestras and stuff like that. You know, I'm married. I am married to a man that I love, and I am so rich. Ooh, I drive a BMW, and I make so much money, but I never have to work. I don't know how I get all my money, but I don't have to work. Isn't that funny? You know, a lot of people think I live here with my mother, but I don't. I promise I don't. And I'm half Italian. My daddy was Italian. But I hate my daddy, and my daddy hates me. I only love my mama and my grandma.
Bootsy, that's got to be the sweetest thing I ever did hear anybody say. Now, I'm going to remind you one more time that I'm Chester the Molester. and I am here. Excuse me, my name is Lester the Molester. I'm sorry about that. And I'm here on Spreaker.com to tell you, do not go over to the Debbie Daily Show. She is so old and so dried up, and she's a nasty old twat. You stay over here at the Lester Show, where we've got talent, and we've got brains, and we've got, better than that, we've got a brother-in-law named Johnny that got on iHeartRadio. Now, I didn't make it on iHeartRadio, nor did my friends, and we're out to wreak havoc on this network until they all hate us. I gotta go now, Bootsy. It's been fun being here on your show, babe. I'll talk to you next time. Until then, this is Lester the Molester saying goodbye, everybody, and don't forget to hate Debbie on the way out.
There you go. Don't forget to hate Debbie on the way out. Now, a lot of people think, well, okay, Debbie, but obviously the way I handled that worked, because I now have a relationship with the perpetrator of the abuse, if you want to call it that I took on the network. And it was, even he admitted it on the air. I mean, on our conversation. He called me. I was just merely hanging around on Skype doing nothing, and I got a Skype message saying, "Hey, are you there? Can you take a call?" And I was like, "Sure, let me get my headphones on." And it was Lester. And I will say this, he doesn't sound a thing like he does on the radio. Lester is a character that he plays, and plays very well. And, so how about you, Mr. Midnight Movie? Have you ever wanted to fire back at somebody and just do a parody like that? I know somebody did a parody on you one time that was hysterical.
Yeah, of course. Anytime somebody ridicules you in a certain way, I mean, everybody has their tolerances, and everybody laughs at different things. And there are times the only one I really wanted to fire back at was Mr. Solution.
Well, some people do that through YouTube, Mr. Midnight Movie.
Yes, I have done that through YouTube several times.
Yes, you have. Quite well, I may add. Very funny stuff. A lot of people do it through animation.
Yes, and I have. I have a few animated videos of Mr. Solution.
Yes, you do. Very funny ones. And I have to say, I'm missing my co-host this evening, which is none other than Steve Rush. He told me a minute ago, if you need me, call me in, but he needs to remember I can't call him in because I'm on a call, and calling him in would be showing some people his number, and I don't want to do that because I don't even want somebody to know his number, even though that person would be trusted with his number, because if his number ever got out to the trolls, I wouldn't even want to be a suspect of that. So, yeah. No, I'm not. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. You know, I used to tell Victor, "What did you do last night?" And then I would go, "Wait, never mind. I don't want to know. I don't even want to know what you did." You know, maybe I'm just better off not knowing before we got married. We would have boys' night out and girls' night out. And I'd say, just remember this one thing, baby doll. When you go out, keep your legs crossed and put a helmet on that shoulder for me. And he would just laugh.
How long was Tom North originally scheduled to be on the show for? Was it going to be for 2 hours, or was it?
I don't know. He didn't say. His publicist didn't say. He has a publicist named Barbara that was conversing back and forth with he and I. About the show, and she wanted to check it first, and she had to go look at some links and look at the show, and she came back and she said, "We'd love to." So I thought, great. And I did warn her. I said, now there are some things on the net. If you just Google my name, you're going to see YouTube videos that are spliced. And she goes, oh, we don't pay attention to any of that. But guess who might come on my show? My show, my show. Guess who might come on my show? My show.
Does his name start with an L?
No, he's a possibility too, but this one is going to make Jewish producers so mad that he decided to be mean to me. Jewish producers kind of like on and off, and right now is our downtime. I don't know why. He just decided he doesn't like me. You ready for me to tell you?
Go ahead.
Starts with Phil and ends with Hendry. Huh?
Phil Henry is going to be on your show?
He might. And so far, anybody I've said this might, they've come on, and it's a big might. But
because I think that Larry Elder would be a perfect complement to Tom North.
You are right. I could even start a month-long Christmas child abuse thing or something.
Yeah, or at least parental, not even child abuse, but adult, people, adult
survivors.
Would say adult survivors, or even people who have difficult parents. Adult survivors of difficult parents. I don't want to even say abuse, because I don't know if Larry Elder would classify the way his father was abusive.
Yep.
In his perspective.
I don't know. I would, and of course I've read his book. Yeah, I read his book, and I would say his father was abusive. I mean, sometimes even a non... Uh-oh. Somebody was in my chat room when I played that Lester. Oops. Hi, Squeak. Lester's in my chat room, Mr. Midnight Movie.
There we go.
He just put laughing out loud. Maybe that means that was not me. That was Mr. Midnight Movie that played that. Mr. Midnight Movie, I told you not to do that. I asked you not to do that, and you did it.
I'm sorry.
Damn.
Getting back to
Larry Elder.
Larry Elder, yeah.
I think sometimes a parent that is a parent that is not a part of your life. I think that's a form of abuse in a way. I know the word abuse is very harsh, but people, we are so much what we were made from in childhood. I mean, that is that's who we are, and it's so hard to overcome bullshit.
Yeah, and it can put you at disadvantage in life, and that's one of the things. I remember I did tell a woman who was she wasn't my therapist, but she had been a therapist for years, and I one time said, think about suing my old man for emotional distress, and she looked at me and she said, if you ever had a child, you would never say that. Now, do you agree with her as a parent? Because I'm not a parent, but you are. And do you kind of concur with that? Like,
being able to sue your parents for emotional duress, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I said, I wonder if I could sue my old, one time I said, I wonder if I could sue my old man, for emotional distress.
I can't fathom doing that. I wonder if it's ever been done. I don't know. That's interesting that you bring that up. Is there anything on the books for that? Has anybody ever sued their parents for emotional distress? I mean, that's an interesting subject.
Yeah, it is. But but someone said, you want to get single people, because if you have parents, even if the parent was, unless it was sexual and real hardcore physical abuse, most parents are not going to side with you.
Well, I can imagine not. I can imagine not. I don't know. I guess I'm just. I know that you've said this before, that I'm too forgiving, but I guess I'm just that much of a forgiving person that I told a heartbreaking story one time of when I was a very small girl. I was in Girl Scouts, and we had been working all week on the father-daughter picnic that was coming up on Saturday. Now, every Saturday we drove to Greenville, Texas, and we had a little quasi-soiree with my aunt and uncle, who my aunt and uncle were very close to my parents, and the men would either go play golf or they would fish out of the number 5 tank, whatever you want to call it, behind the house, and they would get plastered drunk. And I knew that we did that, and I was hoping that this was one Saturday, because the picnic started at noon, and it was at Samuels East Park, off of Interstate 80, and blah, 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 blah. Well, sure enough, here came Saturday. We had worked so hard all week getting ready for it, and my father had promised me that he would go. And lo and behold, here came Saturday, and what happened? We all got in the car and headed for Greenville. And I was so depressed all day and so sad. And I saw my father come stumbling out of the pickup truck about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon that evening, and he was just plastered. And I looked at him with, a quivering lip and, crocodile tears in my eyes. I remember saying, "Are we not going to go to the picnic, Daddy?" And he said, "Of course we're going to go." And he said, "Byron, I've got to go throw some bean bags for Deborah Ann, and I'll see you later." When we got into the 72 Dodge Charger, whatever it was that he had always had classic cars. He was a freak. That's where I get my love of classic muscle cars. He had a red over black. He had a black over red classic Dodge Charger that I've got some pictures of me in front of that are just hysterical. But anyway, we get in there for the fun ride home, and sure enough, he exits for the picnic. We get there, and he orders my mother and 2 brothers to stay in the car. We get out of the car, and he takes me by the hand, and as we're walking towards the picnic, everybody's leaving the picnic. Everybody is leaving. And people are kind of looking at us and sort of whispering, and my dad's kind of, not really staggering, but just sort of, you could just tell he was like, wah, 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 wah. And we go over there, and there was our booth, and there in the booth laid my 2 bean bags that had, "I love you, Dad," and, smiley faces made on them. And I could tell that moment when I looked at my father that guilt was all over him, that he felt so bad. And it was the first time in my life I remember trying to help my own father not to feel bad about what he had done. And I told him, I said, I remember, I even wrote it in my diary. I've still got the writing in my possession in the diary that I wrote that talked about how bad my father felt. And I tried to console him going back to the car. I said, "Don't worry about it, Dad." It was nothing. It was just a stupid, who cares? Don't worry about it. And went home and probably cried myself to sleep for days over it. So, I think that when we come from situations like that, I guess I can't frankly see myself doing something like that. But people, and I'm not saying this about you, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. Maybe people that aren't quite so forgiving of things or something. I even forgave my mother for everything. The day my mother died, I cried like a baby. And the day before she died, the funny thing about it is the day before she died, I actually sent her, you know why they say you don't drink soda pop on the air? I actually sent her 2 dozen sweetheart roses and signed the card from my father because I knew he wouldn't. And she called me and said, "Oh, Deborah, you won't believe what your father sent me. 2 dozen sweetheart roses for our anniversary." And, I just was different in that regard. But I think forgiving there's a lot to say about that,
Yeah.
But I understand that some of us are just complete, hold on, I got to sneeze, assholes when it comes to forgiving people for stuff. I'm joking,
Well,
of course.
the thing is, I'm forgiving if, and I believe in more of an Old Testament form of forgiveness than the Jesus form of forgiveness. I believe if the person apologizes and then makes amends, then yeah, you probably, for the most part, should forgive them. Some things you can't get back, like your youth, or if somebody murders somebody, a loved one, you can't bring that back to life. So, for the most part, I perhaps believe more of the term letting go than the word forgiveness. But there are people who have probably like you because you're a Christian, and that's kind of the way Jesus did it.
Well, Victor just walked in and said, but Mr. Midnight Movie's forgetting that the author of the book, actually went through this complete transforming program to get him to where he was. Is that what you're saying, Vic?
Yep.
Yeah, he's listening in the other room. But he was saying that, just say it, Victor. It's just you and I and Mr. Midnight Movie and about 2,000 other people. He's giggling. Victor?
Well, that he had to go through that program that helped him overcome and understand, and then he was free of the whole problem, and now he lives, fine and everything. And he had to bring his brothers and sisters into that same deal, and after each one of them went through that, they were all lifted from that burden and could fulfill a better life.
Victor gets so nervous when he's talking on the microphone. I'm sorry, baby.
You were babbling.
I wasn't babbling. You babbled. You're a babbler. Did you get that, Mr. Midnight Movie? Just
yes,
say yes.
Lester Bartholomew says, the Bible explains very clearly that if you are a believer, not forgiving is a deal breaker for you, making it to his goal.
The Bible explains very clearly that if you are a believer, not forgiving is a deal breaker for you, making it to your goal. And Steve Rush says, Vic, you rock. Steve, you're a kiss up. I'm joking.
Being an atheist, I want justice right now. I want those to suffer.
Make them dance, bitch. You want them to dance, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Midnight Movie. Sorry. You want them to dance for you.
Sounds like my old man. Oh, I'm fucking sorry. Get over it. And usually there's a difference between. Actually, I remember listening to Dennis Prager, and there was a guy who wrote a book about how parents, difficult parents should approach their children on apologizing, because a lot of times they defend their actions. And I didn't listen to much more of it because Dennis believes that you should honor your mother and your father, and it's not necessary to get an apology out of them.
Mr. Midnight Movie.
He believes that.
Mr. Midnight Movie, I just told the chat room, you're talking about a person who says, Hail Satan.
Yes, I do. I do say Hail Satan at times. That's out of a joke, being my atheist. But as an atheist, I do want, you only live one time. And there is a part of me that wants to see pain inflicted on those who inflict pain on the innocent, including me, who is an innocent person.
You believe in caning, you mullet? Are you kidding me?
That wouldn't be a bad idea for bad parents, and I would cane every one of them. I told this to my mother one time.
No, are you serious?
I wasn't talking about her. I was talking about my dad, and she just bursted out laughing. She just thought that was hysterical. Go on stage and do that, Brian.
What is caning? I don't understand. What
caning? Caning is the first time I heard of caning was in that boy in Singapore who basically he was originally going to get 6 lashes with a cane, and they whittled it down to only 3. But it's done by a martial arts expert. It's done to criminals in Singapore who commit acts like vandalism, drug dealing, or whatnot. But one of their punishments is physical, and it's struck. It's a cane, and I guess it's like made of bamboo. That is that's very painful for the recipient. And I actually have a petition for caning. And it was part of my one of the things that's multicultural. It's from Singapore, and we could bring it here to America for criminals, and I think would be great reduction in crime and make bad parents behave as well.
Are you reading the chat room?
No, I'm not.
He said basically it's beating the total shit out of you.
Yes, it is. It is. But it's done in an orderly way, and it's done by a martial arts expert.
No, I meant, Lester, was there any feedback on the show that you did earlier yet? Did you hear his show that he did earlier? It was, to coin a phrase that you use, somewhat inflammatory, I guess you could say, and I hated to respond to it, but there was a lot of whistling involved. It was really funny, but yeah.
What show was that?
It was a show that Lester did with Guy. Yes. I'm sure it is. I was wondering if it was. He did just listen to Lester's, I think his most recent show, unless he's done something after that. I forgot the name of it. It was quite inflammatory, and I was wondering if he had any feedback on that yet. But
I listened to a little bit of it, and I, that stuff was, it did make me laugh. Quite a bit of what Lester does makes me laugh, and yeah, I enjoyed that.
Oh, I love hearing Lester laugh. Have you heard him laugh? When he takes off laughing, sometimes his real voice will crack through, and I think it's funny as hell to listen to him when he accidentally gets cracked up by something that either he says or that Guy says to him. And Guy just remains so calm, and sometimes just today they were both laughing their asses off. It is funny. You're right. It is.
How many packs of cigarettes does Lester smoke a day?
Oh, now I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say he's not that voice. I don't know. I can't really say. That
voice is like a 4-pack a day man.
Well, he does the voice very good. How about that? I'll put it that way. He's very, very funny person. I'll tell you, he's a mess. He is a mess, and I withstood. He says he quit about a year ago, and he's, of course, joking. Right, Mr. Midnight Movie?
He quit non-filter about a year ago, but the filter comes right back in.
Oh, boy, Mr. Midnight Movie, what am I going to do with you? You are a mess, I'll tell you what. He was less than a pack a day, he says. Now, my grandfather started smoking when he was 3, and we had to beat him to death at age 96, and he smoked filterless Camels, and I think it's all in what you eat. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just think it's what
You're right, because the Japanese smoke more than we do, and they live longer. The one thing I suggest if you do smoke is to drink green tea, but try to quit it. I don't think it's good for you, and it's a bad habit.
Wait a minute. I need a new commercial. Now, can you tell us about smoking and green tea, Mr. Midnight Movie?
All right. If you're going to smoke non-filter cigarettes like Lester, and are trying to avoid lung and skin and colon cancer, take yourself some Japanese bonsai green tea. It will relieve the cancer and perhaps even stop it altogether. Bonsai green tea will go through your system and attack all of those cancer-causing cells that go through your body when you take nicotine. So please drink. If you are a heavy 4-pack a day man like Lester, drink bonsai green tea from Japan. They did it. It worked in killing many naval men and ships. It will work for your cancer if you smoke. Thank you.
I forgot to mute myself. Look what Lester put in the chat room. He goes, "Fuck me." He always says that. My dad used to say, "Well, fuck me running backwards."
Yes. 4 packs a day.
You're a mess. Well, I think we'll know what the next Lester show will be about. No, I'm joking.
Well, maybe you can do one on how he quit smoking 4 packs a day when he went from non-filter to filter cigarette. Probably used to roll his own. Roll your own like a man, boy.
You're asking for it. You're begging for it over here. You don't even know it. He's vicious.
Roll your own, goddammit.
One night, we were on the program several months ago, and I asked Mr. Midnight Movie, I said, we were talking about getting sponsors for the show, and I said,
roll your own. Okay, go ahead.
No, hush. I said to him, if you were to get a sponsor, who would you get as a sponsor? And he said, I could probably find that audio somewhere, but I'm not going to even attempt to right now, but I'll try to find it sometime. And he said, probably Gold Bond. And I said, well, what would you say about Gold Bond? And after he said this, I spliced, I diced, and I put together this.
I am
Mr. Midnight Movie, and when I'm angry and sweating like a hog, nothing takes away the chafing better than Gold Bond. I squirt it all over my face and my body, and that keeps away the chafing monsters. When I do my radio show and somebody aggravates me and makes me angry, and I'm yelling and screaming and sweating like a pig, I use Gold Bond.
And then, of course, I threw in the side effects, but I won't let them. Did you want to hear the side effects, Mr. Midnight Movie?
Sure. You know, let's ask our audience. Do they want to hear the side effects?
Y'all want to hear the side effects?
No one's responding.
Oh, it looks like your sponsor has been Midol. Oops. I'm not saying a word. He said he's taking notes. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Now, Deshaun, I promised you that you promised me that you weren't going to be pimping your show in my chat room and trying to get people on your show. Now, stop it. Be nice. I'm sorry, Deshaun.
Let us pimp a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's going to put on your dancing shoes. I guess that's going to do it for this evening for this train wreck. Unless anybody else has anything that they want to add to this little train wreck we have going with us here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and kill the feed over on BTR. 215 has been unmuted this whole time. 215, are you still there? Oh, no, I forgot to unmute myself hours ago, so we'll just forget about that. Forgot to unmute the call. Anyway, so that's going to do it for the Blog Talk show. That's been, they've probably been over there saying, boy, it sure is quiet over here. I wonder what happened to Debbie. But anyway, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and kill it for tonight, guys. And Mr. Midnight Movie, I believe we have a little, do we still have our little contest going on or not?
Sure. I think you owe me about 50 steak dinners, but, you know, we can cut it down to like maybe 17. I don't know.
Oh, blow me. There's no way. The first one was the Romney thing.
Yeah.
And then
no, I actually wanted Romney. We both wanted Romney to win.
Well, whatever. Okay, fine. I don't mind taking you out to a steak dinner, and I will take you out to a steak dinner. And I believe even Lester, now that I know that he is a local here where I am, I think he will agree that the finest of the fine. Well, I'm just going to ask him, Mr. Bartholomew Jones, if you are still in the chat room, where, if you could go anywhere, and eat a steak in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where would you go? Where do you think is the number one place to have a big, juicy steak? We'll see if he's still there. He may not still be in there, but if he is, I'd like to see what he
his taste buds may also be dead.
Bingo!
Due to the heavy amount of smoking.
Shit, you're gunning for him. You're crazy. He said Ruth Chris, and I couldn't agree with you more. Right, Mr. Midnight Movie? Don't I agree with Mr. Bartholomew Jones?
I wasn't. You know, it was Ruth buttery when I went there, and I was rather disappointed. But I'm in L.A., so.
Now, what was the other steakhouse that I told you was your choice in Dallas? It was Ruth Chris or?
Oh, the place the Frisco's.
Del Frisco's, exactly.
Del Frisco, yes.
Del Frisco's knows how to. Of course, he was disappointed. He's going to pick on you now, Mr. Midnight Movie. That's Lester. Don't pick on him. Hush. You're crazy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Del Frisco's is wonderful. The only thing about Del Frisco's is if you go there, the plate that they serve the food on literally is like a skillet. Have you ever gone to a Mexican food restaurant and they've served your fajitas in a skillet that's still frying the shit? And
yes, I want to ask Lester another question. If I were in Dallas and I wanted to go to a strip club, which one would I go to where the chicks perhaps put out?
I'm going to write one down. Oh, were they put out? Okay, I'm going to write one down and see if he writes down the same one.
Okay, come on, Lester. Tell me which one. You know, you've been there.
Okay, I've entered my answer. The Ranch. Oh, that one is, okay. Now, I actually know the owner. I wrote down Royal. What's it called? Royal. I wrote down the word Royal. I thought he would probably write down the same one, but he didn't.
Is there really a place called the Ranch? That's a strip club?
Yes, there's one called the Ranch. And
Really?
from what I understand, Cabaret Royale. Yes, that is it. Cabaret Royale. I've been in the dressing room there several times because I know some of the dancers. And if you've never been in one of the dressing rooms, whoa, that's something to see. Like, I was out there on the floor a minute ago, and this freaking really bad guy was out there and gave me a $20 bill for a 20-minute lap dance. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, they're just bitching about men and snorting like mad bulls. Wink.
Yes. A lot of dried up aspirin and stuff like that. And,
exactly.
They smell like nicotine and meth. It's wonderful.
Exactly. But some of them are really pretty girls. I'll tell you, they really are. And they'll just walk around just totally nude. Stalker dancers, totally nude, and they'll walk up to you and they'll say, "Are your boobs real, honey, or are they fake? Can I feel them?" And it's true, we do feel each other's boobs. I'll have to admit, we do. And I've felt many a boob going, "Oh, those are nice." Saline? No. Who is your doctor?
Put it on camera, Debbie, and you will get a lot of hits.
Pics or it didn't happen. They all have daddy issues. Yes, and exactly. I'd like to thank all the fathers out there who mistreated these women and made them act like this. I saw that on a film the other night. I don't remember which one it was. I'd like to thank all the bad dads out there. Anyway, well, that's going to end it. We are going really left with this deal tonight. And I want to thank, again, my guest, which was Tom North of, I keep blowing like a trumpet, True North by Tom North. This guy is really neat, and this book is amazing. And I was thinking about what you were talking about, A Boy's Life, and I want to play that trailer before we leave. It came out in '93, and it starred Leo DiCaprio and
Robert De Niro.
See, we finish each other's sentences nowadays. That's a tough movie to get through, I'll tell you what. But it's the same scenario. It's the mother that marries the abuser, and she knows he's abusing him. Right?
Yeah.
Here's the trailer. Here's the trailer. We'll see what that says, and then we'll see what else we say about it. Here we go. Pretty tough movie, though. I remember watching this. I saw it one time in a hotel.
He violated school property, and he wrote obscene words on the wall.
She thought he needed a father.
This isn't working. And on top of it all, you've gone wild. I can't handle it anymore, and it scares me.
He thought she needed a husband.
Sure got crappy taste in boyfriends.
Which is just about the time they met Dwight.
Here I am, you lucky people.
Dwight?
People can call me anything they want as long as they don't call me late for supper.
What a dope. I talked to Dwight the other day, and he wants you to live with him for a few months.
So what are you gonna do, just give me away to him?
Well, if you two get along, and if things work out, he and I might get married.
You're in for a change, mister. You're in for a whole nother ball game.
Think of it like an adventure.
We're gonna make a man of you yet.
Jackie! Hate it here, you know that?
You left the lid off the damn toothpaste again.
It's not fair!
This is my house, and I get to say about the toothpaste.
How come you never take up for me, huh?
Why the hell don't you ever help me straighten that damn boy out?
I will not referee!
Warner Brothers presents Academy Award winner Robert De Niro.
He's crazy, I'm leaving!
Oh, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Oh!
Ellen Barkin.
I could leave with you right now, couldn't I?
Yes, you could.
Oh, you're not leaving. You're not leaving.
This Boy's Life. A triumphant story of one boy's struggle to be free.
I'm going where that
Very highly emotional movie. Oh, we're still muted. Hang on. No, we're not. There we are. I'm so stupid. Very highly emotional. It's hard to watch. Truly, it is. Yeah. At Close Range is a hard to get through movie about a terrible father back in the 80s, starring Christopher Walken. At Close Range. Are you familiar with that, Mr. Midnight Movie?
I did see that film, and I think the father, honestly, even though the father murdered his one son and tried to murder the other, I still think the father, or the stepfather, in this boy's life was even worse.
Oh, unbelievable movie. If you can catch it on Netflix or wherever, just be ready, because it's very, very, it's hard to watch. I'll tell you that, and I'm not sure if I've seen At Close Range. I don't know, but yeah, if you say that this boy's life is harder to watch, it's pretty hard to watch. I'll tell you, Robert De Niro, of course. Now he did. What was the one we talked about last time about that has the horrible rape scene in it?
Cape Fear.
Cape Fear. Yeah, the Cape Fear comes out in him. So, now, At Close Range, is that the real father that murders the children? Murders the child?
That's based on a true story, and yeah, I guess he tried to kill both of his, he killed one of his sons, and then he attempted to kill the other one.
Did you see what Lester just wrote in the chat room? He goes, fuck me. I'm agreeing with Mr. Midnight Movie about At Close Range.
Well, what's he agreeing with me about At Close Range? Like that Robert De Niro was the worst father than Christopher Walken?
Exactly. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he, like, this, like in this boy's life, he was, like, completely soul-crushing. I mean, the father was away, but the kids agreed to steal with him.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It is horrible, horrible. I think I've got Lester's down. Well, fuck me. So he says that on the show. Well, fuck me. He's horrible. He is horrible. I love him. He's terrible. He's a horrible person, though. He's an adorable, horrible person in my book. Well, fuck me.
I wonder what kind of father he is, or what kind of father he'd make.
I don't know.
If he'd be more like the Christopher Walken or the Robert De Niro.
Let's just be glad that you never bred.
A little bit of both. It could be a recipe of both.
Let's just be glad that you never bred. There's no Little Mr. Midnight movies running around that we know about anyway.
I hate. You know what?
You hate kids. Say it. Say it. Say it.
Well, I don't want to say I hate them, but
you
I
hate.
feel like I was kind of raised by a kid. Like my father was real childish.
Go away, kid. You bother me. You like what's his name? Go away, kid. You bother me.
Oh, you're talking about W.C. Fields, but I just don't want any more childish behavior around me. I was raised around, like, in my opinion, emotional childish.
Well, Lester, the later it gets, the more he lays down. He's in bed now. Aren't you in bed, dear?
Yeah, I'm actually getting ready to take a shower and hit the hay.
He's in bed, and the phone is probably 10 feet from him right now, and they said they can barely hear you. He knows that. Oh. Here he comes. All right, I'm hungry, and guess, he said you sound like the fly.
I'm going to be like the bee and start stinging.
I'm going to let you go before you get yourself in trouble with this big dog here.
All right, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm joking, of course. All right, guys, I'm going to pull it now, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks again to my guests, Tom North and Mr. Midnight Movie, for standing in for Steve Rush, my non-existent co-host tonight. But thanks, guys, and I'll let you guys... I'll just see you guys some other time. I never know how to say goodbye, so fuck it. I'm out of here. Bye. See you later.
3 lap dances and a steak dinner. We'll call it even.
Bye. Good night.